Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Naruto become like Madara 11K special movie. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video, and also go support the Thunderful Things for writing that awesome fanfic. Let's start this video. For the greater good, stop toying with the prey Naruto, they bore me, let us seal the Jubi and complete the infinite Tsukiyomi. Said Madara. Whatever you say, grandfather, honestly they are starting to bore me as well. Who would have thought that the 5 kage of the most powerful hidden villages would fall so easily along with their entire shinobi forces combined? Responded Naruto. I agree, Hashirama would be disappointed to see how we extinguish their will of fire so easily. His descendant, that Senju with the big breasts, pales in comparison to what we could do back then. Even his weakling brother made me have to pay attention to what was going on. And that brat Inoki still has not learned how to dance well enough with me. Madara sighed. Overlooking a massive battlefield stood 2 figures atop a colossal beast with one large eye and tentacles for arms. Both in crimson armor, similar to a samurai's, worn over a black suit and pants with shinobi sandals. The armor constructed from metal plates formed to protect their bodies around the chest, waist, shoulder, thighs, and back. They wore fingerless black gloves. Both had gun base on their backs and an adachi-type sword strapped to their hips with red and black hilts. The most intriguing thing about them were their eyes. Their eyes contained a ripple-like pattern centered around a dot. Around that dot were 3 tomos symbolizing their power over both the abilities of the Sharingan and the Rinnegan. Beneath them were a slew of bodies, with cuts and holes and burns and broken body parts, most dead. Within that graveyard staggered the 5 cages that stood against Naruto Uchiha, Madara Uchiha, the Akatsuki, and the many that they had revived to fight for them using the Edo Tensei. The Reikage Mighty A, young Kazukage Gaara, Hokage Princess Tsunade, the Mizukage Mei, and the Tsuchikage Inoki. All banded together to fight against Madara's plan to take over the world by releasing the 10 tails and using their infinite Jinjutsu. We won't let you do this, Madara. We will save this world from your darkness, your curse of hatred. We are the cage of our villages, it is our duty to defend our people, we will not allow you to do this. Screamed a heavily wounded Tsunade, the diamond-shaped mark on her forehead gone, her ability to stay standing quickly fading, along with her hopes of protecting what her ancestors had fought so hard to build, and her loved ones Nawaki and Dan wanted so much to protect. Only the hope that reinforcements from the other divisions would arrive soon to help them kept the 5 battered cages standing upright. It is over, Tsunade, you were always going to lose, you are too weak, now be gone the lot of you. Says Naruto, and without moving blasts away the last hope that the world had to survive with a Shinra Tensei. Finally we can begin, Naruto, this role belongs to you, you must be its Jinchuriki, since you have both the blood of the Uchiha and the Senju running in your veins. Madara was interrupted by him, sensing something coming from a mile away. He quickly realized it was about a couple hundred more shinobi racing toward their location. I sensed them too. Come grandfather, I want to test the power of the 10 tails before we project on the moon, who knows when we will be able to slaughter this many shinobi, if ever again. Said Naruto. Dancing is entertaining, Naruto, but not if your opponent cannot dance on a level similar to yours. Besides, I thought you were in this for peace and for what happened to your parents, not for the killing. Madara questioned. I suppose you have rubbed off on me, old man. Let us complete this and be done, this has been years in the making, I just want it to be over with. Replied Naruto. Very well. As Naruto released the weight seals on his armor and began to take it off, Madara proceeded to make the preparations for their plan, drawing intricate seals on Naruto's entire upper body. Be prepared, Naruto, this may be painful, you are not a young baby, therefore your chakra coils have already hardened themselves, it may take a lot more for you to adapt to the massive power this beast contains. Explained Madara. Understood. Madara began to perform hand seals, and the Shinigami appeared behind Madara. I recognize those seals, Madara, are we really using that sealing jutsu, won't it take your soul? Please Naruto, I bow to no one, not even the god of death himself. Shiki Fuijin. Suddenly the Shinigami's eyes turned red, and his hand passed through Madara's chest into the Jubi they were standing on. The ground began to rumble, and the Shinigami began to glow extremely bright, surprisingly Naruto was able to see it. What the hell is happening? Yelled Naruto. I don't know. Replied Madara. Suddenly the light engulfed everything in a dome. And why am I not? Because he was too far gone, he would not change his path, his brutality exceeds anything I have ever witnessed. You however still know the meaning of mercy, the meaning of forgiveness, and unlike him your purpose was to stop the pain in this world. Even if you are a descendant of Madara, the most evil being ever known, do not forget you are also a descendant of Hashirama, fight that darkness within you. Even if what you said is the truth, if I am still savable, it is too late, I have done too many wrongs, no matter how many rites I perform, I will never be able to redeem myself. Nor will I ever have another chance to save the world from its pain, it is not possible. Nothing is impossible. Naruto, say you had the chance to go back in time, say that what you have done had never come to pass, say that you could fix everything and could still bring peace to this world. I would move heaven and earth to achieve that goal, can you do that? Can you send me back to before? I can and I will, but you must swear to me that you will stop your grandfather and the Akatsuki, no matter what. I swear to you. But when will you send me back? To when everything changed, to when you and your sister first fought and she almost killed you, when you vowed that you would be second to none and set out to have everyone acknowledge you. I'm going to be 6 years old. Indeed you will, but you will also have the knowledge and the power of your present self. You will have everything you need to stop what is coming. Thank you for what you are going to do. Good luck, Naruto, but understand your grandfather was much stronger than you when you both released the Jubi. You must try to surpass him, or else it will all be for naught. I will surpass him. Good. Suddenly the Shinigami put his hand over Naruto's forehead and was once again engulfed in a white light. Naruto, Naruto, Naruto. Minato Namikaze, the Yellow Flash and 4th Hokage of Konohagakure, was shouting at his son. Yes, father, replied a 6-year-old Naruto, but within him was Ana, the strongest shinobi to ever live, descendant from the 2 strongest shinobi ever, Hashirama Senju on his father's side and Madara Uchiha on his mother's. He was the only one beside Hashirama to be able to use wood style. He was also able to access the massive perfect Susanoo, second only to Madara's. He had mastery over the abilities of both the Rinnegan and the Sharingan, expert over the 5 chakra natures, with an arsenal of ninjutsu and jinjutsu that would make Orochimaru and Kurenai jealous, ability in taijutsu on par with Guy's that would hold out until he opened the 3rd gate at least. All of his strength and all of his knowledge, Naruto's drive to become the strongest shinobi in the world was influenced by this moment. His father wanted him to spar with his sister Naoko, the container for the 9-tailed fox demon, the Kyuubi no Yoko. 6 years prior, a masked man attacked the cave that Kushina was giving birth to Naoko and Naruto. The masked man was able to kidnap Kushina and release the fox. Luckily Jiraiya of the Sannin was there, Minato, and he, both being powerful ninja, were able to overwhelm the masked man long enough to seal the Kyuubi within Minato's newborn daughter. From that point forward, Naoko was viewed as a hero, the one who would keep the village safe from that monster fox by keeping it locked up in her belly. The village loved her and so did her parents. Naruto from the beginning of his life onward was overshadowed by his sister. His parents loved her more and so did the village. Not that they were cruel to him by any means, and he didn't mind that they treated her better. He was a noble heart and he was happy for his sister. All he wanted was to make his parents proud as well, to see that smile on their face and that look in their eyes that told him they were proud. To do this he studied and he trained from the very point that he was first able to. Even at 6 he knew what chakra and ninjutsu and jinjutsu and taijutsu was. He couldn't wait to join the academy and start his journey to become a great shinobi like his father and to one day become Hokage, to gain the right to protect his precious people too. But the only shinobi to ever get a double S ranking in the bingo book as his father, things looked completely possible. But that was where he was wrong. Being the son of the Hokage had a very bad downside. The Hokage was for the most part very busy. So whenever he could spend time with his family, it was with his beautiful wife and his daughter. He did this because he had a feeling, the Hokage had a feeling, that the masked man who had attacked his wife and released the fox would return. He also had a feeling that his daughter was the child of the prophecy that his sensei Jiraiya had told him about, the one who would either bring peace to the world or destroy it. So Minato took it upon himself to train his daughter to be the greatest shinobi to have ever been. His daughter would defeat the masked man and bring peace to the world. And that goal would leave little time for Naruto. This was where Naruto began his journey to darkness. All that neglect that had been building up inside him was his fuel. With it he would go on to unlock his abilities and try to bring the world the peace that his father wanted. At 16 Naruto would go on to meet Madara as he tried to complete his plan to release the Jubi by kidnapping his sister. Both he and his sister were Jounin by this time. But seeing Naruto's darkness and Naruto's revelation that he wanted to bring peace to the world and defeat Madara, Madara was interested in the boy. Knowing that he was his grandson, he elected to take the boy under his wing, to train him even further and have him join the Akatsuki. Listen to me, Naruto, I know who you are, I know the power you hold, and I have the same dream that you do, to bring peace to this world. You are Madara Uchiha, you don't know the meaning of peace. I am your grandfather Naruto, Kushina is my daughter, and I am doing this for her, for you, for all those that have experienced the pain of losing people close to them. Join me Naruto, and I will teach you so many things. I will make you stronger, and together we will bring peace to this world. No shinobi, no war, just peace. How can I trust you? You can't, a shinobi's greatest weapon is deception, but I am telling you the truth here, and now, you can believe me. If you couldn't you would have been dead by now. You are my family, and I want us to achieve our goals. With much consideration, Naruto thought of everything in that moment about his life. He wanted peace, he wanted to make his parents proud, he had killed too many and seen too many die to want anything else other than to see the dream that his peace be realized. I will go with you. Good. From that point on, Madara would take Naruto under his wing and train him to perfection. Naruto would become a missing ninja of Konohagakure, beginning with an A rank, quickly becoming an S rank when he killed Orochimaru, and began to help Madara take the Byajas from their respective villages. Soon the Akatsuki whom Naruto joined and became one of the most powerful members of had all but the ninth beast whom Naruto's sister was still the Jinchuriki of. "Brother, stop doing this please," shouted Naoko. "Son, please stop this," screamed Kushina. "Naruto, please," pleaded Minato. "This is what you wanted, father, for peace to be brought to this world. I will bring that peace that we both want, and soon all this struggle, all this death will bear fruit. We will no longer have to kill. The world will no longer know the meaning of pain." Behind Naruto, dressed in his Akatsuki robe, stood the other members of the organization: Deidara, Haiden, Kisame, Kakuzu, Zetsu, Tobi, Itachi, Sasori, Nagato, and Konan. Next to Naruto stood his grandfather Madara Uchiha. In front of Naruto stood his family, his father the 4th Hokage Minato Namikaze, his mother the Red Death Kushina Uzumaki, and his sister Naoko Uzumaki Namikaze. Around them were the dead bodies of many Konoha shinobi, all tried to protect their Hokage. The most notable were the Kami no shinobi Hiruzen Sarutobi, Kakashi Hatake, Might Guy, Jiraiya, Kurenai, even Danzo was dead. Many that were Naruto's age were there: Neji Hyuga, Rock Lee, Tenten, Hinata Hyuga, Aburame Shino, Kiba Inuzuka, Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, and Choji Akimichi. Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, Sai, all dead. "Don't do this, Naruto, it isn't you. It is now." Naruto couldn't speak anymore because there was a kunai protruding from his chest. Its wielder was Itachi Uchiha, the loyal son of Konoha who massacred his entire clan, except for his brother, to avoid a civil war that would have resulted in the destruction of Konoha. Itachi had quickly moved to the side of his Hokage, but Naruto, who was impaled, suddenly turned into a flock of crows, something that Itachi himself taught Naruto. Suddenly appearing behind the group of S-ranked criminals, Naruto spoke. "Itachi, I know your loyalty to Konoha is as strong as ever, but do not forget our goals. You as well as I want peace for the world. I will give you one chance. Get back over here." "I'm sorry, Naruto, but you are not working toward world peace, you are working toward world destruction, a path that I will not follow." "Very well." What happened next was a shock to those on the Konoha side. Naruto was behind Itachi and plunged his sword into Itachi's heart. As Itachi fell to his knees, Naruto moved to perform hand seals and aimed himself at his family fire style. Great fire annihilation. And a wall of flames exploded from his mouth and flew at the three. Minato threw a three-pronged kunai, and so did Naoko, who Minato taught the Flying Thunder God to. They disappeared in a yellow flash to their kunai, while Kushina performed her own jutsu, Earth Release. Hiding like a mole technique. Seconds later, Kushina came out of the ground to stand next to her husband and daughter. "Please, Naruto, stop this." "Enough, Kushina, he has chosen his path. I'm sorry, Naruto, I don't want to kill you, but you leave me no choice." Madara then stepped forward but slightly turned to the rest of the Akatsuki. "Stay out of this matter is between family." "Father, please don't do this, you don't have to do this," screamed Kushina. "I'm sorry, daughter, but Konoha needs to pay for what it has done, and this world will know peace. I will let you live, just leave, all we want is Naoko," reasoned Madara. "You know I won't leave my family." Naruto moved to stand next to his grandfather. "Shall we begin?" said Naruto. Naruto thrust his hands forward, shuriken flying at the trio in front. "Shuriken shadow clone technique," muttered Naruto, and his shuriken turned into a couple dozen fire-style fireball jutsu. Shouted Madara, and flames erupted from his mouth. The flames quickly caught up with the shuriken in the air, setting them on fire and increasing their speed. 3 seconds later, the shuriken hit their target in a large explosion, but as the smoke cleared there was nobody there. Naruto and Madara both stood in their spots as they felt something appear above them. Both Minato and Naoko smashed their Rasengans into the ground, creating large craters, completely passing through Naruto and Madara. Naoko, Naruto and Madara noticed was covered in a bright yellow chakra cloak. Naruto launched a Shinra Tensei, knocking both of them away, but quickly chased after them, creating something that Naruto copied from Kakashi with his eyes. Chidori, Naruto lunged his hand forward toward his father, but caught nothing with his attack. Feeling something coming, Naruto again turned intangible, and as soon as he did, chakra chains passed through his body, originating from underground where he suspected his mother was. Naruto punched the ground with chakra laced into it, blowing it apart to reveal Kushina. Kushina then jumped up to avoid another of Naruto's Chidori's, her chakra chains still trying to find their target. On Madara's side, he was engaging in a taijutsu match with both Minato and Naoko. Naoko's speed and strength greatly enhanced from the chakra given to her by the 9 tails, and Minato, the fastest man in the world, seemed to be even with the shinobi legend Madara. Madara quickly ducked as a kunai passed his head and turned around to see a Minato appear in a yellow flash, Rasengan in hand. Minato thrust his jutsu forward, but was met with a barrier coming for Madara that absorbed his jutsu, with his weight pushing him forward. He could not quickly maneuver away from Madara's hand that grabbed onto his neck. Something happened to him as he was grabbed by the neck. He no longer had control over his chakra, as if it was being sucked from his body and siphoned into Madara's. But before he could find a way out of the grip, Madara decided to finish him and removed his soul from his body. One down. The fourth Hokage had died. Father. Naoko lunged forward to attack Madara, but he dodged. Instead she received a kick to the face, sending her flying away. Quickly trying to regain her composure, she skidded on her feet to look where Madara had been, but saw nobody. Madara suddenly appeared behind Naoko, and on him was a large ribcage that looked to be made of pure chakra. From it came out an arm that drew back and punched Naoko into the ground. During this, Naruto was still fighting his mother. Well, she was a Kenjutsu master, so was he, and their swords were clashing against each other over and over. Naruto's was the Kusanagi that he pried from the dead body of Orochimaru after their battle. His mother's was a sword that had a red hilt and looked to be made of a black metal. Whatever it was strong enough to not be sliced in half by the sharpness of the Kusanagi. Naruto swiped his sword where his mother's head was, however it no longer was. She had ducked under it and rolled towards him, kicking him with both legs, sending Naruto flying back, but catching himself and backflipping to avoid his mother's follow-up. Naruto willed the Kusanagi back to his hand and prepared himself to end his mother. Naruto quickly threw a kunai that he brought out from his back pouch hidden by his Akatsuki robe and threw it at his mother. She dodged, but at the last second saw an explosive tag attached to it. Quickly jumping away, she avoided most of the damage but was still thrown back and caught some of the blast. As she was disoriented, Naruto made his move, putting his hand up Bansho Tenin. His mother was suddenly pulled toward him and her heart was pierced with the Kusanagi that he had brought up with his other hand. "I'm sorry, mother," Naruto whispered as a tear fell from his eye. "I'm sorry, Naruto, forgive me for your childhood, and don't forget that we will always love you and we will always be with you," Kushina said with blood dripping from her mouth. Naruto slowly placed his mother on the floor, grabbing the sword that had belonged to her and strapped it along with a hilt that he removed from his mother's body onto his hip. It would remind him of her strength and her will, as well as reinforce his purpose. He then walked to his grandfather. "Are you ready, Madara? I want to get this over with." "Yes, let's move out and seal the 9 tails," Madara said with an unconscious Naoko on his shoulder. "It will finally be over," thought Naruto. A tear slipped from a 6-year-old looking Naruto. "I'm sorry, can you say that again, father? I said spar with your sister." "Okay." The 6-year-old Naruto and Naoko took their stances, a somber look on his face and excited look on hers. Both then began to run towards each other, and Naoko threw a punch that landed on nothing, moving her knee up to hit Naruto's face after he ducked. Naruto blocked the attack with the palm of his hands and backflipped, kicking his sister on the face as he went backwards, knocking her unconscious. When these series of events originally happened, in her want to win, Naoko accessed some of the Kyuubi's chakra and gravely injured Naruto. "It's time to do it different, it's time to do it better," thought Naruto as he walked off, leaving a surprised Minato and Kushina behind. As Naruto walked into his family's compound from their personal training ground after just defeating his sister, he began to think of what he would do different to allow him to surpass Madara. He obviously would do more physical training. Being stronger and faster than others was always a major bonus in a battle to the death. Not only that, but he knew a lot about the future. Of course, he would begin to change things for his benefit that would pay off in the long run. He also wouldn't be anyone's bitch. He had enough of that for the first couple years of his life, and he had enough besides. Being feared by some of the most dangerous men in the world in his time in the Akatsuki would never let him go back. Something Madara had told him also resonated: you may be the best at something, but you could always be better. That alone showed the wise nature of Madara. Even if he was the best, he could always improve, and indeed he would. Not only would he need personal improvement, Naruto would need to establish relationships to defeat Madara. He and his grandfather had torn apart the Shinobi Alliance because they had not banded together soon enough. Mistrust and paranoia allowed the Akatsuki to capitalize and move before the nations were ready for a war. Diminishing their battle strength was just a matter of how long it would take. Even then, little cooperation and intelligence sharing, as well as not sharing knowledge of their abilities, heated even the great Shikaku Nara, the brains behind the Shinobi Alliance. Naruto began to make a long mental list of the things that he would need to do to prepare him for the struggle that would come 12 years from that moment. To be honest, he was a bit excited to see what he could change and what would result. Walking into his room, Naruto began to think about his previous life. It was time to have some fun with a second chance. Besides, the Shinigami didn't give him any restrictions. He just said to save the world from Madara and the Akatsuki, which he would. For sure, Naruto wanted to begin amassing his power, but at 6 years of age it was probably too soon. For now, knowledge would have to be enough for him. But another thing came to his mind when he looked at a picture that was on his small desk, littered with scrolls on theories of chakra and taijutsu and ninjutsu. It was a picture of his family, the ones he had killed. How could he face them? How could he live with them and eat with them and be near them when he had betrayed them? Perhaps this second chance had a couple of major drawbacks that he had not thought about, but that could be dealt with. He wasn't some emotional sap, he could handle a little emotional baggage, he could handle quite a lot actually, and this was where it was going to begin. It was going to begin on a good note. His father and mother and sister, who he had first alienated, could maybe truly become his family. He would work hard to rebuild that bond. Naruto, spoke Minato, trying to find a way to speak with his son. Even though he did love him, his daughter, he believed, was the child of prophecy, and if training her and paying more attention to her than Naruto would save the world, it was a sacrifice he would have to make, but it didn't mean he wouldn't try to spend time with the both of them. Maybe he could even teach them a lot of what he knew as a ninja, make them both great shinobi, great enough maybe to appoint one of them as his successor, the Godame, or if it didn't happen before then the Rakudame. Besides, if his daughter was going to save the world, she could use all the help she could get, and having her brother by her side, it could be a major source of strength for her. He would begin to try and get close to both of them even more. He needed to rectify the mistake that he made with neglecting his son more than he should. Kushina also felt the same way. She could tell her son was powerful. She could tell her son was immensely powerful. He had the chakra reserves beyond those that were cage level. They were on par with those of a host to the nine-tailed fox, which was very rare as those levels were usually non-existent unless they were Jinchuriki. Not to mention he was the descendant of the clan heads of the Uchiha and the Senju. Even though her daughter Naoko was on the same boat, she did not possess the same potential that he did. Not that she didn't have potential, but hers came from the ability to maybe one day harness the power of the beast within her. And on that thought she pledged that she would help her kids go as far as they could go and then push them beyond that point. While Kushina was contemplating how she could help her kids, Minato was having a conversation with his son about what he wanted to do about both his and Kushina's new resolve to help them both and care for them more than they had been previously doing. He wanted Naruto to accept him and allow Minato to train him. He knew his son would be a genius. He looked in on his son from time to time and saw him constantly trying to learn more and more to make his parents see him and not just his sister, but he was too ignorant and he was too focused on other things. Mainly these things included what was happening with the Uchiha clan and their current planning of a coup to usurp the Hokage and make the Uchiha the rulers of Konoha, something that would no doubt lead to a civil war that would kill countless Konoha shinobi, his comrades. Another thing on his mind was the predicament that he was putting one of his most loyal, if not the most loyal shinobi he had ever had the honor to command in, Itachi Uchiha, an Anbu captain that had a superior moral code and maturity beyond that of anybody, was willing to be a spy for his village to keep tabs on what the Uchiha were planning, and if needed, he offered to take action against the clan to protect the countless villagers that would die if it came to civil war. On a happier note, there were talks of an alliance between Konohagakure and Kumogakure, but even if it looked like a good thing he was very cautious. Kumo was very militaristic, and even if this move would help to boost their position among the elemental nations, to be allied with the strongest of the hidden villages Konoha, Minato couldn't help but question why. Sure, it was an alliance to benefit them, but Kumo usually never made alliances, they were the go at it on our own type of village. What Minato believed was the true motive were the bloodlines. Kumo had the least amount of bloodlines out of all the hidden villages, while Konoha had the most amount of bloodlines, and they were some of the strongest like the Byakugan and the Sharingan. Not only that, but they also had the most secret clan techniques and other secret or forbidden jutsu that would completely decimate other villages if it was used. Other hidden villages were just lucky that Konoha had such a high sense of morality. These abilities and techniques unique to them were as strong and diverse as the Yamanaka's clan ability to pierce the mind, and Nara's clan ability to manipulate shadow, Kurama's clan ability to make strong Jinjutsu, or the Ito Tensei and Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Minato couldn't help but think that Kumo was after any of these numerous secrets that made Konoha superior to all the other villages, something that Kumo was always jealous of. But Minato, being a kind soul, would give them the benefit of the doubt and enter this alliance. If things worked out, the alliance would be finalized by the end of the week and they would celebrate with a festival, while the head ninja of Kumo visited with a delegation of Kumo Jonin to show off the finalization of their friendship. 1 week later, the festival was almost over and the atmosphere was quite exciting. In a world where there was constant danger, it was nice to know that they had at least one less enemy to worry about and even gained a friend in the process. While the villagers and the shinobi of Konoha were celebrating this major victory, the ninja delegation of Kumogakure were sticking to the shadows doing reconnaissance. They were ordered by the Raikage to scout out the security of the village and to, if possible, take any scrolls or techniques that they could get their hands on. Also, if they could manage it, they were to try and take an Uchiha or Hyuga child. The Kumo Jonin were feeling quite bold and confident. They had the perfect plan to take a Hyuga and in turn the Byakugan, what Kumo had been after for a very long time. Even better, she was a young female, the clan heiress, oldest daughter to Hiashi Hyuga, Hinata Hyuga. At 6 years old she was kind of weak, already being trained in the arts of the gentle fist by her clan, but she was slow to learn it. An hour later the head ninja of Kumo was waving goodbye as he passed through the village gates, amused that they didn't even know they stole one of their village's most powerful bloodlines. The plan was to take the Hyuga and the disorder and the distraction of the festival, replace one of their men with a shadow clone to not arouse suspicion, while the real ninja waited outside with the kidnapped Hyuga. They would then rendezvous in the forest and return to their village and be praised as heroes. Unfortunately they did not account for somebody to be following them, to be there when they met up with each other, but on the other hand, it was just a kid. But this kid had distracted the father of the Hyuga child so that he could have a chance. You there, stop where you are and hand me the girl. Surprised, the Kumo ninja immediately took battle stances, suspecting that they were surrounded by a couple of teams of Konoha Anbu. Instead they were met with the sight of a child. This child had long blonde hair that ended with red and black at the tips. He was garbed in black ninja attire, short-sleeved high-collared shirt, black Anbu pants and sandals. This kid looked as intimidating as a 6-year-old kid could, but what they really noticed was his eyes. Maybe he was another bloodline user from Konoha that they could subdue and take back to Kumo. Whatever it was, it looked like the Sharingan, except it had a ripple-like pattern with 4 rings around a center dot. If it was the Sharingan or some bloodline they didn't know, they could be rewarded even more. The possibilities were endless. We don't want to kill you kids, so stand down and come with us. We promise you we won't hurt you. You'll be a hero in our village. Spoke the head ninja, trying not to harm his precious mystery that was the promise of many things. As if you could even touch me, as if you had a chance. People like you are disgusting. They lie to those that they would call comrades. Backstabbing, treacherous bastards like you deserve to be slaughtered like dogs. You don't even have the decency to take what you want without having to resort to such pathetic methods. So let me do the world that favor and get this finished. Naruto began to walk forward, drawing 2 kunai from his back pouch, while the Kumo ninja moved to knock out their prize. 2 ninja jumped at the boy and tried to kick him in the head and punch him in the gut. Both their attacks passed right through him as they moved to stop themselves from hitting each other. Black chakra chains erupted from the boy and impaled the 2 ninja through the heart, surprising the 11 that were left. Now taking more caution, 6 moved in on the boy, but they didn't notice that around them in the trees were about 100 Narutos. Then erupting from the ground, a Naruto popped up and grabbed the unconscious Hinata and began to take her underground with him to save her from what was about to transpire. Surprised, the Kumo ninja tried to reach for her but were too late. Looking back at the boy they noticed he wasn't there anymore. Simultaneously all the Narutos flew through hand signs and released their technique, wind release. Great breakthrough. What resulted was a gruesome scene. In the epicenter of where the Kumo ninja stood was nothing but body parts and pools or smears of blood. The jutsu that he used leveled everything that was in the middle of the Narutos, shredding them apart with the blades of wind that were released. The Kumo ninja that had taken Hinata had not even touched Naruto, and he had managed to save the Hyuga girl. Naruto began to laugh at what just happened. He forgot how nice the killing felt. They were considered top-tier ninja in their village, but they hadn't even survived 5 minutes with him. Not to mention how this was a major ego boost. He couldn't help but laugh even harder out how embarrassed Kumo would be to have failed in their little scheme, but also began to wonder what his father would do. Naruto's maniac-style type laughing was cut off by him hearing a group of people land a couple of feet behind him. Turning toward them, he did not expect to see his father, the Hokage, the Hyuga clan head Hiashi, and a group of about 20 Konoha Anbu. While Naruto was tracking down and fighting the Kumo ninja after they left, Hiashi immediately noticed that his daughter was gone. He quickly went to inform the Hokage that his daughter was missing, and at that moment Minato knew that it was the Kumo ninja. They had infiltrated the village to steal a bloodline, the Byakugan. Wasting no time, he called to the hidden Anbu in the room and ordered one to grab a couple of squads and to meet them at the village gates. Calling to his student Kakashi, Minato told him to begin tracking the scent of the Kumo ninja with his dogs. As soon as the retrieval party was ready to depart and the direction the Kumo ninjas went was confirmed by Kakashi, they sped off as if their lives depended on it. They couldn't let Hiashi's daughter be kidnapped. It would be bad for Konoha to lose the Byakugan to another village, and Hiashi would raise hell. A few minutes in, out of nowhere came a loud explosion that created a large dust cloud over its center. They moved towards it and were shocked when they saw a small boy standing there laughing at a pool of blood and body parts with an unconscious girl laying next to him. They were more shocked to see it was the Hokage's son and the clan head's daughter. "Naruto, are you okay? What the hell happened here?" Spoke Minato out of concern for his son, shocked that his little boy had slaughtered a group of such high-class shinobi and was laughing at the work that he had done. He was quite disturbed. "Oh hey father, I saw that the Kumo ninja were trying to kidnap Hinata here, so I decided to go after them and test myself. And I must admit I am kind of awesome, right?" said Naruto, proud of the facade that he had made up, a young kid trying to prove himself to his father and trying to test his own power. It was perfect for the behavior that he was exhibiting before. Minato, Hiashi, and the Anbu that had accompanied them were all looking at the boy in shock. It would take a couple of Jonin alone to take on the head ninja, but this kid decimated him, and the 12 Jonin that were accompanying him, it was mind-blowing. But back to the more important matters, he had saved the Hyuga heiress and had stopped the Kumo ninja from stealing any secrets they may have had, and the Byakugan. They would talk about the details of Naruto's rescue operation later, but for now they needed to decide how this would affect their alliance with Kumagakure. It was obviously off now, they would never be allied with people who betrayed their friends like that. But what would be the repercussions? Would Kumo just deny that their ninja were working for the Raikage, or would they blame Konoha for the betrayal and blame them for making an unprovoked attack on their ninja? If so, the Hokage wouldn't take it, he would tell the truth and make it his goal to show just how untrustworthy and dishonorable Kumo was. Nobody would betray his village after extending a hand of friendship and then blame them for the betrayal. Minato made this very clear in his message to the Raikage that he sent via messenger bird. Along with the bird was a storage scroll that held the bodies of the 13 dead Kumo shinobi. On to what happened with Naruto, Minato demanded an explanation, and he was surprised to hear what he was told. His son told him that he just planned it well, but not only was he strategically smart, he was also strong and versed in various aspects of shinobi arts. This was a major slap in the face for Minato. How could he be so ignorant to not see his son advance so far and become so strong? At least it was what Naruto made him think. Madara taught Naruto a lot of things that he could do with his ocular powers, things he would have never dreamed of when he first unlocked them, such as bringing people back from the dead, making meteors fall from the heavens, and summoning a giant statue that could hold the chakra of all the Byakugas combined. But accompanying these powers was mind control, something that Madara had taught him and Obito when they were making their move in Karigakure, trying to eliminate the bloodline users through their control of Yugura. Minato was vulnerable to it, as was almost everybody else in the world. It was the power that allowed them to control tailed beasts, such as how Madara subdued the 9 tails to fight Hashirama. With the Hyuga incident settled, Minato could now focus on what was going on with the Uchiha, Danzo, and the rest of his advisors, except for Hiruzen wanted to wipe the Uchiha out, but they had a dilemma. They didn't want one of the most powerful clans in their village to go extinct, and along with them the Sharingan. Instead, they opted to agree with Itachi's offer on that he would take down his own clan. In exchange, they would spare his brother Sasuke, and he in time would revive the Uchiha. Well, they molded Sasuke to be loyal to the village and nobler than those that existed at the moment. But those characteristics instilled in him, all the Uchiha that came after him would hopefully inherit those ideals and not turn out to be assholes that considered themselves superior to everyone else. Itachi would also join an organization that Jiraiya had told them about, a new up-and-coming group of S-class criminals called the Akatsuki. The attack was supposed to take place in 3 days, and preparations for the defenses of the village in case other villages tried to attack in the chaos were being set up. It pained Minato to have to do this, but he had to place his village above all else. Just like when he put the 9 tails in his daughter for the village's sake, he would need to authorize this horrendous deed and pass it on to one of his most outstanding shinobi. Minato needed to spend time with his family. It always cheered him up just to be in proximity to them, and he could quite possibly begin to train them, even at the age of 6. Both were really smart and could probably get a couple things down easy and work towards advanced techniques by the time they became genin. It would be cool to spend time with Naruto and Naoko, with their mother helping him as well. Maybe they could be prepared for the Chunin exams by the time they graduated the academy. He was already wondering who he would assign to be their sensei. Flashing to his family compound, he heard something loud coming from their training ground in the back. Going to see what it was, he saw his small son fighting about 50 solid clones of himself. Surprised, he wondered how his son knew a Jonin ranked forbidden jutsu that took large amounts of chakra just to make a few, but he was currently fighting 50. Even more surprising to him was that he had black chakra chains coming from his body, a technique he thought only his wife could use. Also, his eyes were spinning, and they looked like the Rinnegan and Sharingan combined. Sensing his father, Naruto stopped. He turned to look at him and dispelled his clones, in the process seeing Minato with his mouth slightly agape. "Hi father." "Naruto, your eyes, they're the Rinnegan and Sharingan," Minato said, still trying to accept his son had the eyes that the sage of the 6 paths had, and within them were the eyes of the Uchiha clan. "I know." "What do you mean you know? Do you know how you have them?" "Because I'm a descendant of Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, and in turn the creator of all jutsu, the sage of the 6 paths." "How do you know so much, Naruto?" "You underestimate me, father, you have for a long time. But you're only 6, for goodness sakes." "I know. How are you so calm about this, and how long have you had them?" "I'm calm because I've had them for 2 years, I've coped." "My goodness, well, what can you do with them?" A lot actually, but don't worry father, you will probably see everything in due time. But here let me show you a taste. Naruto made Minato kneel down to his height and placed his hand over Minato's head. Sifting through his mind he saw what Minato had come home for and wanted to help his father. It made him uneasy to know that his father had once ordered the Uchiha clan massacre. But now it made sense, he was doing it for his village. I would love to train with you father, but I'm probably stronger than you so don't go easy on me, said Naruto with a smile and jumped back getting into his battle stance. I'm the 4th Hokage Naruto, the Yellow Flash, I'm pretty sure I can take you easily. Well bring it on. Both ran at each other with speeds that would be slightly faster than the Raikage in his lightning release armor. Reaching each other in less than a second they went to punch each other, but their fists connected in midair. They tried to knee each other after, but both connected in midair again. Jumping backward simultaneously, Minato threw a 3-pronged kunai at Naruto, which in turn Naruto blew away with a Shinra Tensei. Not wanting to show how strong he was to his father, Naruto knew he had to lose this, so he rushed forward to punch his father and engaged in a taijutsu match that left various openings in his stance. Minato saw these openings and could tell that his son was skilled. With a bit of practice he knew his son would become a great shinobi, even maybe the Hokage. At 6 he had killed 13 Jonin and could almost match the Yellow Flash in speed. He was already beyond Genin level. Minato thought he had evaluated Naruto enough and so finished by kicking Naruto in an opening that he had left. Wow Naruto, you're pretty good, how about we begin your training and you'll be amazing by the time you make Genin, said Minato with a smile. Sure father, replied Naruto with a similar smile. 6 years later, Naruto was sitting in his seat at the academy all the way in the back corner. He was wearing what he normally did, black long-sleeved shirt, black anbu pants, shinobi sandals. His hair had grown much larger to the point where it was almost at his lower back, part of his hair was over his left eye. Some may say that it was girlish, but not after Kiba Inuzuka said it. He was insulting the son of the Hokage just to get noticed, and he had paid for it dearly with a few broken ribs from one punch to the boy's chest that had sent him into a wall. But now people steered clear of him mostly. He was one of the cool kids in the class. The other one was Sasuke, the last Uchiha in Konohagakure. 6 years earlier his entire clan was massacred by his brother Itachi. He had vowed revenge on him and had made it his life's goal to kill his brother and revive his clan. But just because it was his ultimate goal didn't mean he would let it consume him. He was cared for by many, mostly by Minato and Kushina who looked out for him from time to time. He became almost like part of the family after the death of his own, but his pride wouldn't let him have them take him in. He didn't want a new family, he just didn't mind that he was being cared for. It kept him from going into darkness, and the rivalry that he had begun with Naruto was one of his motivators. Back in the classroom, today was their final exam to become Genin, which would consist of a written exam and then practical exams that would evaluate whether they were ready to become the next generation of defenders for Konoha. Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, began to make his speech that he hoped would inspire them to give it their all. Today you are going to be tested on whether you have what it takes to become the next bearers of the will of fire, to be selfless in your objective to defend your home, your village, and your precious people that reside within it. Good luck young cadets, I hope that you all succeed so you may begin your path to becoming the next legends of Konoha. Thank you for your time and do well. You may take it from here Iruka, Mizuki. With a smile Minato flashed away leaving most of the students except 2 shocked and even more determined to pass this exam. They wanted to be cool and strong like the Hokage of their village. Alright cadets, you will now be given your tests, try your best, and good luck. Spoke Iruka with confidence. He was confident with this year's batch of probable shinobi, he had many promising candidates. In his class sat the future clan heads of the Nara clan, Akinichi clan, Inuzuka clan, Hyuga clan, Aburam clan, the last surviving Uchiha, the son and daughter of the 4th Hokage, and many other brilliant kids that had the potential to become great shinobi. Passing out the tests he saw the fangirls of the class wish Naruto and Sasuke good luck and blow them kisses and mutter how much they loved them. Silence please. The room got silent and they began to focus on their tests. The tests weren't some foolish questions about history and theory, although some of that was included. A few years ago when Minato gave Naruto the test to see what he knew, Naruto completely bashed how easy the test was, and Minato couldn't help but agree, so he tuned it to make it more appropriate putting in situational questions and advanced questions that would be more fitted for future shinobi than any random person with a decent knowledge of history and idea of the shinobi arts. Minato also changed the curriculum to focus more on the physical and upgrade the intellectual, but still tried to give the students the pride, loyalty, nobility, honor and caring ideals of the village. After about half an hour the tests were finished and it was time to move on to the practical, so Mizuki and Iruka began to let everybody outside for the shuriken kunai toss, the spar with the instructors, and the jutsu demonstrations. Naruto and Sasuke performed everything perfectly, but Mizuki went a little way harder on Naruto than the others when it came to the spar, enough to where they were both fighting beyond the abilities of any genin. This surprised Naruto, Mizuki, Haruka, Sasuke, Naoko, and the rest of the kids that came from shinobi families. However, when Haruka saw it was going to get out of hand, he stopped it and looked at Mizuki with a scolding face. "Are you okay, Naruto? Why did he go so hard on you?" questioned Naoko, worried for her brother. "I don't know, but I'm fine, Naoko. We both know I can take him out without breaking a sweat. Okay, big brother." And it was true that he could take on Mizuki. He could take on several cage-level shinobi until he would have some difficulty. Mizuki was nothing compared to him, but he was wondering why he had gone harder on him, and he knew Mizuki was actually trying to hurt him, but he didn't know why. After everybody was done sparring, they performed their jutsu test, which most students passed. It was the basic Bunshin, Henge, and Kawarmi. Finally, after the day had ended, most of the class had shinobi headbands to show off to their parents. Looking for their parents, Naruto and Naoko began to walk further out of the academy gates and finally caught sight of them. "Mom, Dad, we're over here." Naoko waved at their parents. "Hey guys, you guys made it, congratulations, we knew you would. How about we go celebrate?" "Sure, let's go get some ramen," suggested Naoko. "That's my girl," said Kushina with a big smile on her face. Both Naoko and Kushina loved ramen, while Naruto and Minato hated it from having eaten so much. Before they left, they saw Sasuke on a swing that was close to the academy. Minato began to walk over to him. "Sasuke, come on, we are going to celebrate with ramen." "I don't want to impose, Lord Hawk. I'm not taking no for an answer, Sasuke. You're practically part of the family now, let's get going," Minato said, not letting the young Uchiha reject the offer. "Thank you, sir." Soon Minato and Sasuke joined Naruto, Kushina and Naoko. They were all beginning to walk down to the Ichiraku ramen stand when Kushina suddenly remembered that she had her camera on her. "Wait guys, I want to take a picture." "Put your headbands on." Putting their headbands on, the three of them got into position with Naoko in the middle and Sasuke and Naruto on her sides, all smiled gently for the camera. Those three had great potential. They were going to be legends when they grew up. They radiated destiny. After the photo, Minato treated everybody to ramen, which put a major dent in his wallet when both Naoko and Kushina were eating. "So how did you guys do on the tests? Did those 6 years of training make it look like something you could do in your sleep?" said Minato. For the 6 years since Minato's spar with Naruto, he began to train both Naruto and Naoko alongside with Kushina, and a while after Sasuke's family was killed, he joined them when Minato invited. Together they learned things that were way beyond the level of things they should be learning at that age. Minato taught his kids techniques and put them through immense physical training, while helping Sasuke with his clan jutsu, also helping Naruto with some of the Uchiha clan jutsu, since he had power over the Sharingan that greatly surprised Sasuke. Then, with permission from Tsunade, the last Senju technically on paper, he got permission to teach Naruto some of the Senju clan techniques, and they were very high-powered. Kushina also taught Naruto how to use his chakra chains more effectively and taught Naoko how to access the Nine Tails chakra and control her Biju. "So Dad, are we all gonna be on the same team, because that would be so cool?" "I mean, we've trained with each other for 6 years, we would have amazing teamwork," said Naoko enthusiastically. "Yay, I pulled a few strings, and you guys will be paired together with your sensei being Kakashi, my former student and former Anbu captain. How about that, huh?" replied Minato with a smile. "They would make a great team." "Oh really, that's awesome." Naoko had to smile. She was on a team with her brother and a good friend, and their teacher was going to be one of her dad's students, so he must be awesome and powerful. It was beginning to get dark, and Naruto was just walking around the village evaluating his progress and things that he would need to do. He was finally in his shinobi years, and this was when things were going to get more important. For the first 6 years he was stuck in the confines of the village and had trained to the bone and got as much knowledge as he could while he was here. But something that Naruto was not able to get his hands on was the forbidden scroll in the Hokage library that was constantly guarded by Anbu. His opportunity would come soon enough when Mizuki would present himself to him and give him an assignment to steal the forbidden scroll to achieve the rank of Chunin, an exam only given to the rookie of the year of every class, as Mizuki had put it last time. Like clockwork, Mizuki showed himself and made the offer, saying that he went hard on him just to test that he was worthy, and Naruto agreed to it just so that he could inform his father and catch Mizuki red-handed and extract information from him. Not wanting to put Naruto in danger, Minato gave him the real scroll, which Naruto began to read over in the forest, his eyes recording everything that he saw, surprised at the jutsu that was kept in this scroll. That scroll was extremely dangerous and jackpot to anybody who wanted to become powerful. Appearing on a tree branch, Mizuki shouted out to the 12-year-old boy, "Good job, Naruto, now give me the scroll." From behind him came the response, "I don't think so, Mizuki." And with that, Naruto placed his hand on Mizuki's head and extracted all the information that he could, then he pulled his soul out of his body. Before Mizuki fell off, Naruto grabbed him and then picked up the scroll that was on the floor where he teleported from and teleported to his father's office. In the office was Minato and a couple of jonin like Kurenai, Kakashi, Asuma, Guy, and a couple of others, all shocked that the Hokage's son just teleported in with a dead body on his shoulder and the forbidden scroll on his back. Minato was unfazed by this. "Hey Naruto, what did you find out?" He wanted the scroll for the Sannin Orochimaru. Orochimaru promised him power in return for the forbidden scroll, but Mizuki didn't know where he was going to be. Orochimaru just said to grab it and escape, that he would find him. Damn it, that snake had a spy in the village, and we don't even know where he is going to be. Fine Naruto, thank you, you did a good job. This will count towards your record as a B-rank mission. Thank you father, I'll take my leave, have a big day tomorrow, don't we Kakashi-sensei? Iruka was in his classroom with a new genin that had graduated, ready to call out the teams that the Hokage had assigned. Yesterday the Jonin were trying to make requests on who they got, because this year's class had a lot of high potential shinobi. Many tried to get their hands on the last Uchiha, the container of the 9 tails, and the genius Naruto who had killed 13 Jonin at 6 years old. Unfortunately for them, those choices were already reserved for the last surviving student of the 4th Hokage, Hada Kakashi, the copycat ninja. Many of the other Jonin were happy with what teams they had received. Kurenai got Hinata, Shino, and Kiba. Asuma got the next generation of the Ino Shikacho trio, and the rest of the teams came out pretty well balanced. Minato believed that these teams would have good teamwork, and now it was time for their Jonin sensei to introduce themselves and learn a little bit about their students. Then they would determine whether they would pass or fail them with their own test. Currently the newly formed Team 7 was waiting for Kakashi, who was 3 hours late, but suddenly the sliding doors opened to reveal the silver-haired Jonin, until he was smashed into the wall by the giant fist of Naruto Susanoo. "You're late Kakashi," said all 3 of his new students simultaneously. At first he was honored to be able to teach the children of his own teacher, and the last Uchiha to honor his dead best friend Obito, but now he was kind of scared. This 12-year-old kid had just punched him into a wall with a hand made of pure chakra. It looked like Kushina's temper had rubbed off on them, and if so he would be in a world of hurt. He still remembered the beating that she gave him when she caught him and Minato reading their porn in the Hokage office. He had never been so close to death in his entire ninja career. "Oh," he said as the fist dispersed. "We will not tolerate your tardiness Kakashi. If you are late to meet us one more time, we will destroy you," said Naruto. He remembered how aggravating Kakashi being late was. He would never go through it again. Ignoring them he said, "Meet me on the roof." And shunshine to the roof. The rest quickly followed, which surprised Kakashi, but he kept his cool. "Well, introduce yourselves." "But we already know you Kakashi, you're basically an uncle to us. I mean, come on, you come to our house almost every week and sometimes help train us," spoke Naoko, not wanting to waste time. She wanted to begin her super awesome training and missions. "Fine, then meet me at our usual training ground tomorrow." They arrived at their usual training ground with all of their equipment on, which didn't look like a lot, but it was. They had new additions to their look, each had on a pair of black fingerless gloves. Naruto had on his regular black shinobi pants and sandals, his long-sleeved shirt, he had on his headband with black cloth, his hair went over his left eye, and it had grown to his lower back, around his ankles that went up his lower legs a bit were bandages. He also had a holster with kunai and shuriken on his left leg. On his right leg was another holster with 2 scrolls in it. They were storage scrolls. One held a survival backpack, and the other carried several varying types of weapons that he could fight with using his chakra chains or his wood style. His gloves had a seal on each, one carried his gunbai, and the other carried his trusty sword. As a matter of fact, they all had swords because they were being trained by the best swordsman in the village, Kushina Uzumaki. Naoko had a red-clothed headband wrapped around her forehead. She was also wearing the black shinobi pants and sandals with bandages around her ankles. Her top though was different from her usual style. She had a fishnet shirt under her black vest that showed off her belly button. She had a pouch on her back that kept her various equipment. Her right glove held her sword and a seal. Sasuke looked the same as Naruto, except his hair, which was shorter. He had only one holster that was strapped to his left leg. They all looked like professional shinobi, not fresh genin that barely got out of the academy, and Kakashi noticed this. He was going to test them to see how far they had come since his teacher and his wife had begun to train them. Perhaps they wouldn't have to go through all those pesky D-rank missions that other teams were doing. He was one of the best shinobi of the village, and taking D-rank missions was a disgrace to his skills. Even the Hokage may agree that they were ready for higher ranked missions. "Hey guys," Kakashi said, which surprised the trio since he was on time. Kakashi appeared out of the tree that he was in. "It's time to test you guys to see how strong you are, so let's get going." And with that he lifted his headband that was covering his eyes, showing his students the Sharingan within. He had remembered what his teacher had told him. He said that they were all stronger than any genin. They were at least Chunin level now, but he said watch out for Naruto the most. He was strong, way stronger than he let on, maybe already Jonin level. Kakashi was quickly put on the defensive when all three of them launched shuriken at the same time, and they began to go through hand signs. Naruto spoke out, "Shuriken Shadow Clone Technique," and their shuriken turned into at least 200. At the same time Naoko and Sasuke shouted out Fire Style, Fireball Jutsu, and together their collaborative technique became a wave of explosive flames and projectiles that would kill anything in its path unless they had a very good defense. When it hit Kakashi was not there, but Naruto sensed him coming from underground and shouted below. They all jumped up to see Kakashi's hands erupt from the ground and then the rest of his body. Naruto began to channel chakra to his fingers and slashed them through the air, creating blades of wind in a crossed motion aimed at Kakashi, which connected only to reveal it was an Earth-style clone. Shuriken then flew toward Sasuke and Sasuke was quick to react, drawing a kunai. He deflected them all and then threw his kunai in the direction that the shuriken came, putting his hands in the tiger hand seal. The kunai that he threw exploded much larger than a normal one would do. This was one of their own personal explosive seal formulas, much higher powered than what you could get at a store. Naoko then began to feel something poking at her from the back of her mind. She dispelled the Jinjutsu and drew her sword. Turning around she was about to slice at Kakashi, but she sensed that he was emitting a different sense than he normally did, so she activated her first tail Biju form, which emitted a red chakra cloak around her, and used its power to quickly propel herself away before the Kakashi clone exploded. Naruto activated his chakra scalpels that he learned from a Senju scroll that was authored by Tsunade and Hashirama Senju. Along with it he learned a lot on chakra control and other medical ninjutsu that Tsunade or Hashirama had invented or mastered. Seeing Kakashi charging at him with a Chidori in hand, Naruto turned intangible. Kakashi thrust his hand forward and it passed through Naruto, then he turned around and swiped at Kakashi's legs, which Kakashi jumped over, his Chidori still active, trying to hit Naruto when he was tangible and trying to swipe Kakashi, but he wasn't getting anywhere with it. Deciding to go harder, Kakashi dispersed his Chidori and drew 2 kunai, then infused them with lightning chakra. As Kakashi's new determination was apparent, the three friends saw it, and 2 of them began to turn up their alertness, feeling cautious. Naruto wasn't, however. He remembered killing Kakashi by snapping his neck in the previous timeline. He knew this wasn't Kakashi's full skill or effort, but he put up a defensive stance nonetheless. Kakashi went forward with his slightly higher effort and speed. Going for the 2 weakest of the group, he kicked Naoko and Sasuke away, then began to slash at Naruto with his 2 kunai. However, Naruto just stood there, letting the weapon slip through his body. Naruto blew a quick Shinra Tensei, launching Kakashi backward and then touched the ground he was standing on. Kakashi, who had regained his ground, was wondering what Naruto was doing when a small flower sprouted at his feet, then giant wooden tentacles followed and chased after the fleeing Kakashi. After that, Naruto unsealed his scroll with weapons in them and threw it into a clearing. In a puff of smoke, about 12 weapons were released. Smaller wooden tentacles grabbed onto the handles of the various swords, axes, shuriken, and other unique slash-type weapons like a large kusurigama. The large tentacles retreated, leaving Kakashi alone, but the smaller ones with weapons in them took their place. Naruto stood still with his arms crossed as Naoko and Sasuke rejoined his side, all three watching Kakashi jumping around trying to evade the dozen weapons and not trying to get entangled in the wood. Being pushed back enough, Kakashi performed a jutsu he hoped would destroy the wood. It was one of his stronger techniques, and it required a lot of water. The more water, the stronger, so it might work just from the kinetic force it would have, and the lake that he had ended up at would provide a lot of water. Water style. Water Dragon Jutsu. The water he was close to became quite large, and it took the shape of a dragon. Then it flew at the wooden tentacles, and Kakashi was right. The small wooden tentacles couldn't handle being pushed back so hard, and they were thrown back at the 3 genin, with a wall of water speeding at them. Not moving, Naruto put up the upper body of his Susanoo that engulfed he, Naoko, and Sasuke. The water smashed against it, and the Susanoo stood strong, defending them. After the attack hit, Kakashi was standing on the other side of the field facing his 3 students. Kakashi unfortunately looked into the eye of Naruto that wasn't covered by his hair and was placed under a Jinjutsu. Kakashi found himself in a field surrounded by Kurigakure ninja. The field was smoking, and there were dead bodies littering almost every part of it. In front of him was his teammate Rin, the Rin that he had killed by plunging his lightning blade through her heart, and this was his memory of that moment. This was the worst day of his life. He had failed to protect his teammate. He had failed to keep his promise to Obito to protect Rin. This is when Kakashi changed completely and visited the memorial stone so often, begging for forgiveness from both of his dead teammates for being such a disgrace. He promised himself that he would never again let one of his comrades die while he still took breath. Naoko and Sasuke saw Kakashi fall to his knees, wondering what just happened. They looked to Naruto, and he was just staring at Kakashi. "Naruto, what did you do?" Naoko asked her brother. "I showed him his worst nightmare." Then Naoko punched Naruto in the arm. "Why did you do that for? Do you want to break him? Dad is going to be so mad at you. You can just use forbidden jutsu so nonchalantly, Naruto. What if he doesn't want to teach us anymore? Geez." Naoko rushed over to their sensei along with Sasuke while Naruto walked. "Are you okay, Kakashi-sensei?" "I'm fine, Naoko, thank you. I apologize for using that technique on you, Kakashi, I was out of line." "It's fine, Naruto, just promise me one thing, you gotta teach that to me sometime," Kakashi said with his trademark eye smile, trying not to show his students how much that memory really shook him up. "Alright, I think we have had enough. I think I know where to start training you guys, so let's go see if your dad can get us a good mission." Kakashi then picked himself up from the ground and began to walk out of the training grounds toward the mission station. They walked past most of the village, many congratulating them on becoming shinobi, and some of Naruto's and Sasuke's fangirls came up to them and told them how cool they were and were asking for dates. Truthfully, Naruto didn't want any of them, he wanted a strong woman, a shinobi, a warrior that could defend herself and put up a good fight, not some fangirl that didn't know how to tell the difference between a love letter and a letter bomb. So they hurried faster to their destination and were hoping for a mission outside the village. They wanted to start off their shinobi careers with a bang. "Hey Naruto, Naoko, Sasuke, Kakashi," spoke Minato from his seat next to Iruka. He was bored before they came and was excited to see how the test had gone. "Hey Dad," Naruto used a forbidden genjutsu on Kakashi-sensei. "Naruto. I'm sorry father and I did apologize. Are you okay, Kakashi?" "Yes, Lord Hokage." "So how did the test go?" "They performed very well. I can tell Naruto is the strongest of the group, he had some very interesting techniques, sensei." Naruto smiled at this while Naoko and Sasuke glared in jealousy. They wanted to be as strong as him, but they still had a lot of work to do before they could hold their own against him. "So I assume that you're here for a mission." "Yes, actually father, we were wondering if you could give us a C-rank mission. I mean, you trained us father, you know that we can handle ourselves." "Yeah, sure, you guys are lucky a low C just landed on our mission roster. You are to escort a bridge builder to the land of waves, he just needs protection on the way there from bandits and such." "Thanks Dad." "No problem Naoko. Who are the shorties?" said an old guy with a towel around his neck drinking beer. Naruto turned to the man and looked at him fiercely. The old man backed down afraid, and then Naruto remembered him. This mission was where he encountered Zabuza and resulted in Zabuza and Haku's death. He would need to change this. They were his ticket into the Kurigaka rebel faction. He would kill Yagura, take the three tails sealed in him, and make an alliance with the leader of the rebels, she who would become the future Mizukage mate to Rimi. From that point on, helping the rebels would be a big bonus in getting Kurigaka on Konoha's side. They were already thankful. Konoha had allowed Kiri citizens, Shinobi and Non to take refuge in Konoha. Konohagakure helping Kurigaka overthrow their bloodthirsty dictator and giving refuge to their people was a big way to gain trust for Konoha and an alliance between both of them. This was a big step in his plans to get the hidden villages allied and get them ready for Madara's war. If he could get the three tails, kill Yagura, get Konoha allied with Kurigaka, he would be at least a bit closer to being ready. Naruto knew he had to take this mission. This could quite possibly lead to an alliance already, and it would have time to cement enough for them to truly become friends, and they would need some friends when Tsunagakure invades Konoha. "Alright, we should get going," Naruto said as he began to think about how he would go about changing events. His strength level could dominate Zabuza's, however by no means was Zabuza a pushover and would be a great asset to his village. Maybe he would try to get Kisame to rejoin his village as well. They could use 2 of the 7 swordsmen. Team 7 along with Tazuna began to walk out of the mission station. Naruto and Naoko saying goodbye to their father. They then headed toward the gates of Konoha. Already prepared, they began to walk out and headed toward the land of waves. "So since I just briefly analyzed your guys' skill level, I was wondering if you guys had any specialties in battle, something you would like to master or techniques to learn that I don't know about." Naruto started. "Well, I'm kind of an all-around fighter, I guess. I have good defensive and offensive jutsu, I'm pretty fast, I'm comfortable with my taijutsu and jinjutsu, I also know medical jutsu which could be helpful. So maybe we can improve your jutsu arsenal and chakra control, so you use less chakra and increase your reserves. We can also begin trying to get you started on sub-elements that your eyes allow you to perform, such as the wood style which is earth and water. Maybe you could use other elements together to create new techniques." Kakashi commented, wondering what Naruto could do with the combinations, and maybe he could combine even more than 2. "Sounds good, maybe I can create new jutsu. I've also been trying to get into sealing techniques." "Alright, how about you Naoko, what do you want to do?" "Well, maybe I could be the stealth figure and support type. It would be good for me until I can control more of the fox's chakra, then I might take on a more direct role, but I'll still work on being in an assault position anyway." "Good, I'll help you with your taijutsu and ninjutsu while developing your role more. How about you Sasuke?" "I'd like to develop my Sharingan, it's not mature yet, so maybe you and Naruto could help me with it. I also wanted to work on my fire and lightning chakra natures, since they are both strongly associated with my clan," said Sasuke, who earned a nod from Naruto and Kakashi, referring to the training of his eyes. Team 7 had been walking for very long talking about team positions and things that they would want to train in individually. Kakashi was giving them tips and advice that only experience could truly teach. They were also told why Tazuna needed protection. He was on his way to build a bridge to help his homeland that was being sucked dry by a madman named Gato. He was destroying their home, and the bridge would save it. Eventually they walked past a puddle that the demon brothers Gozu and Maizu were hidden in. Kakashi was immediately alert because it hadn't rained in a couple days, there shouldn't have been a puddle, and Naruto sensed a chakra manipulation coming from that spot. Nodding to Kakashi signaling he knew, Naruto looked up to where Naoko and Sasuke were flanking Tazuna, while waiting for the assailants in the puddle to make a move. Thinking the group hadn't thought anything suspicious, the demon brothers began to get out of the puddle, looking at which target they would kill first. They saw a medium-sized boy and a larger man in the rear, then they saw their true target in between another boy and a girl in front. Deciding that the man in the rear was the strongest and their leader, they moved to attack him. Running at him, they began wrapping their chains around the ninja with the hair that was sticking up and pulled in opposing directions, shredding the man apart. Turning to the boy, they saw him with his hands in his pockets looking at them impassively as if they posed no threat, and it infuriated them. They had just killed the man that was looking after them, and the kid just looked at them. At least the kids and the old man in the back looked a bit scared. "Are you stupid, kid? This is the part where you run," said Maizu. "I need to speak with Zabuza Maizu, I need to speak with him now, or I will kill the both of you." Killing intent began to flood the air around them, and they noticed it was originating from the boy. "How do you know we are with Zabuza?" choked out Maizu. "Because I have seen your fate is death if you don't cooperate, if you want to live you will do all that I say." "Not a chance, kid." The demon brothers rushed forward to rip the kid that was talking down to them apart when they felt like the weight of the world was on their shoulder, and so they dropped to their knees, pushing themselves up from the floor with their hands, and tried to look up, but it was difficult. "What is this? What are you doing to us? I'll give you one more chance before both of your heads roll, take us to Zabuza." "Damn it. We won't let you kill him." "I'm not going to kill him, unless he makes me." "Fine. Come on now, Kakashi, I talked them down, they're taking us to their leader." Behind a few trees next to the road, the shinobi they had just killed jumped down. "And who is their leader?" "Zabuza Momoichi, demon of the hidden mist, a rank missing ninja of Kurigakure, turned criminal for the attempted assassination of the Mizukijigura." "And why are we going to him?" "Because the mission has just been given a new set of parameters." "What are you talking about? I didn't hear anything about this." "I know, but I need to do something that requires Zabuza. Trust me, he will listen to me. We won't have a fight on our hands, I think." "What are the new parameters that you're talking about?" "I'm going to kill Gato and his army of thugs, then I'm going to have Zabuza take me to the rebels behind the uprisings in Kurigakure, help them overthrow the anti-bloodline regime, kill the Mizukijigura, and gain an alliance with Kurigakure for Konohagakure." "Naruto, that is probably a long SS rank mission, the assassination of a Kage. Let alone one of a country in a civil war to overthrow a regime. Not to mention that Yagura is a Jinchuriki of a tailed beast." "Naruto, your father didn't authorize anything remotely close to those objectives. Our mission is to escort and protect the bridge builder. Something like that is for a large group of Anbu, not fresh genin, no matter how advanced you are." "We are not doing that," said Kakashi, wondering why Naruto would even want to achieve those goals, let alone got the idea to do any of those things. No matter how strong he was, Kakashi knew Naruto was not even close to ready to handle something like that. "I know we aren't Kakashi, I am. You guys will stay with the bridge builder while I travel with Zabuza to Kiri, and there I along with the rebels will begin to remove Yagura from the equation." "I'm your sensei, Naruto, I'm not going to let you do something like that, you'll get yourself killed." Spoke Kakashi uncharacteristically, very far from calm. What his student was proposing was madness. "I can, and I am Kakashi, and I'm going to need you to inform my father about it." "Naruto, I'm not letting you do this." "Well, first let's meet Zabuza and deal with Gato, then we can talk about this." "Fine, but I'm not letting you do it." Sasuke and Naoko were listening to the conversation between Naruto and Kakashi intently. Why had Naruto wanted to go to Kiri? Why did he think he could pull all of that off? "Big brother, why do you want to go off to Kiri, the freaking village of the bloody mist? And why do you want to kill the Mizukage?" screamed Naoko, worried about her brother's sanity and well-being. "That's exactly why, Naoko. It wasn't always the village of the bloody mist. Their Mizukage is a madman who has fixated his insanity into the eradication of all of their bloodline users and plunged their village into a civil war. I need to stop that, and Zabuza is my way into the rebel group that is fighting Yagura's reign." "Wow, that sounds kind of noble actually, I'm in." "Me too," spoke Sasuke. He saw the determination in Naruto and Naoko. They were going and nothing could stop them. He might as well be there just in case they needed help. After all, they were the closest thing that he had to family, and he truly cared about them. Sasuke would never forgive himself if they died and he had not gone along. For now, however, they were going to have to get to Zabuza and see how things with him went, and so they grabbed onto the demon brothers and told them to lead the way. The demon brothers were trudging along taking the 4 Konoha shinobi and the old man to their leader, the demon of the mist. Maizu was wondering who they thought they were, thinking that they would be able to take down the Mizukage, a Jinchuriki for the 3 tails, after all they were just 3 kids and a man. But from what they were hearing they knew these people were beyond normal. One was the last student of the Yellow Flash, one boy and the girl were the children of the Yellow Flash, and the other boy was the last Ichigo. So why do you want to help Kurigakure kid? I mean an alliance with them would probably hinder your village more than help it. We have been at civil war for quite a long time. You would have to put up aid to get Kiri back on its feet. It could be a while before we become beneficial in an alliance. I have a dream to bring this world peace. Helping your village will save innocent lives and be a step close to bringing that peace that I desire. World peace, you are a naive one aren't you? You seem powerful. But you still don't understand the real world. After all, how old are you? You're kind of tall for your age, but your face still looks like it's 12. I am 12, but that doesn't mean that I don't understand the world. I understand it better than you. I have seen more death than you ever will. Sure kid, whatever you say. Naruto then heard a sound like something was flying through the air at very high speeds. Sensing that they were all about to be cut in half unless they ducked, he screamed out, "Everybody down." And just in time, everybody dropped to the floor to see a giant executioner sword fly above their heads. On its way had sliced a few strips off Kakashi's gravity-defying hair to embed itself in a tree. They were in the forest, so much of the vegetation was covering their view of where the attacker that threw the sword was. Trying to improve his ability on a technique that he had read in a Senju scroll, he placed his forefinger on the ground and let out a burst of chakra that gave him any information on things that were touching the surface of the earth or anything connected to it. Getting feedback, he realized that there were 2 figures in the trees, one was in front of them and one was behind them. "I'm out Zabuza, I don't want to kill you and your apprentice," spoke Naruto, not wanting to prolong this exchange more than he had to. Not that he didn't like Zabuza, he believed the man was strong and noble, but he was itching for a fight. His bloodthirst that was boiling beneath the surface and that he was holding at bay would certainly be quenched by his fight against Yagura, so he wanted it to come sooner rather than later. "Who are you kid, to talk to me so boldly?" came a response from out of a tree. "Somebody who wants to help you with what you had failed to do so long ago." And what would that be? The assassination of the Mizukage Yagura. Zabuza began to laugh at the kid. He was wondering how the kid knew that there was another person in the forest with him. He saw Kakashi of the Sharingan Eye standing next to the kid and their target. He was wondering why Kakashi wasn't taking the lead in this conversation instead. "And what makes you think that you can kill somebody like Yagura when I had failed? Because I'm much stronger than you." "Oh really?" Zabuza said, feeling insulted. He began to go through one of his favorite techniques, Kurigakure no Jutsu, and then the forest that they were in began to get covered by dense clouds of mist that only allowed a person to see a foot in front of them. The demon brothers that were in front of them a moment ago were gone. "Do you know what I am known for kid? The art of silent killing. There are 8 targets: throat, spinal column, lungs, liver, the jugular vein, subclavian artery, kidney, and the heart. Which one should I choose? Stay out of this guys, but stay on your toes. There's another person in this forest, and if they are in league with Zabuza, you can bet that they are not someone to take lightly," said Naruto, getting ready for Zabuza's attack. "Do you really think that you can take me alone, arrogant fool?" And with that, Zabuza appeared right behind Naruto, ready to bring down his giant sword that he had retrieved. Naruto unsealed his gunbai from his glove and brought it up to meet Zabuza's sword. Their weapons clashed and held their position, the people behind them trying to use their strength to gain the upper hand, their eyes looking into the others. Naruto then puffed into smoke as a kunai passed through him, but the Zabuza with the executioner blade dissipated into water as the real Naruto was behind him also, having plunged his hand through Zabuza with his super strength. Not giving each other any time for breaks, they rushed each other again, bringing their weapons up to clash. Naruto was channeling his chakra into his gunabi with wind and nature transformation. Zabuza, unaware that he could do this with his weapon, went through with his attack, only to be blasted by a massive barrage of wind that launched him into the air and smashed him into a tree. Seeing their leader was in trouble, the demon brothers in tandem with Haku launched their attacks. Haku launched Senbon from a position hidden to Naruto. The demon brothers launched exploding kunai and rushed forward, their chains between them. Naruto immediately smacked them all away with his gunbai and was also releasing similar bursts of air to the one that smashed Zabuza into the tree. Naruto hit 2 of his targets in Maizu and Gozu, knocking them out too, and was left to handle Haku's new barrage of attack. Haku chose to sacrifice the cover of Zabuza's technique and used the water that formed it to use it for her own move. 1,000 flying water needles of death, whispered out Haku, and needles of water began to form out of thin air, the mist dissipating. The needles began to target Naruto, but his defense was impressive. As soon as they began to fly at him, he let out a Shinra Tensei, destroying all of the needles, and brought in Haku with a Bansho Tenon. Surprised at what was happening, Haku was not prepared to let himself die and failed to protect the only person that ever found him useful, who viewed him as his tool. Haku broke out of the pulling technique by using a kawarmi with a piece of wood that was on the floor and began to put together his ultimate move that should end the boy, Ice Release. Ice Dome. A dome of ice began to form around Naruto, and Haku disappeared into an ice mirror that put him into another mirror inside the dome. Haku decided that she was going to kill the kid now and expressed her sympathies. "I'm sorry, young shinobi, you would have made a great tool for your village, but my purpose is to fight for Zabuza, and now you must die." With speeds that matched Naruto's, Haku threw out several senbon needles that Naruto deflected with a swat of his gunbai. Knowing that distant attacks wouldn't do the job, he began to contemplate how he would get in close. Haku decided this was going to be his last move, or he would fail anyway. Haku placed an explosive tag on the one kunai that he ever carried and threw it at Naruto, which Naruto blew up with his Shinra Tensei. But what he didn't realize was that it was a distraction. Haku used it to travel to a different mirror and flew out to get the boy from behind. Ready to pierce his liver from behind, Haku aimed her senbon laced with poison, ready to take the plunge and thrusted. What happened next he did not expect. Haku passed right through Naruto and stabbed the senbon into the ground with Naruto now behind him. Naruto deciding that it was best to keep Haku alive so that he could revive the Yuki clan and give Kurigakure Ice bloodline users. He grabbed Haku by the neck, sucking out his chakra so he wouldn't try anything, and looked him deep in the eyes. "I know who you are, Haku. I know what happened between your father and your mother, how he killed her and tried to kill you. I know that Kurigakure is slaughtering their bloodline users in droves. I want to help save them, to protect those innocents that have done nothing wrong." "Who are you?" whispered Haku. He had never told anybody besides Zabuza about his past. "The one who will slay Yagura, the one who will save Kurigakure from itself. Do you trust me?" "Yes." "Good," Naruto said with a soft smile. "Now let's get Zabuza up and those two brothers. We should get started on this journey as soon as possible. With every second lost, so are the lives of people who didn't deserve it." But that Haku dropped the ice dome to reveal Kakashi, Naoko, and Sasuke in battle stances with Tazuna behind them. In front of them were the Demon Brothers and Zabuza. They were ready to clash, but Haku stopped them from going any further before any side did something that would be unforgivable. "Wait, Master Zabuza, listen to this child, he has an offer that you will want to hear." Zabuza looked toward Haku with a raised imaginary eyebrow, wondering what happened in the dome to make Haku stand by that kid's side and give him a chance. He put down his sword and walked over toward the kid, giving him a critical look up and down. "Let's go to my place and talk." Team 7 regrouped and followed the already leaving Kiri Ninja. "What happened in there, Naruto?" asked Kakashi, wondering why they were following Kiri Ninja that just tried to kill them. "I got us a chance to talk. We are gonna see if Zabuza really is loyal to his village or not. Either way, the original mission is still on the table. We won't let him kill Tazuna, but we'll see if he will get us in with the Kiri rebellion. I told you I'm not letting you go, Naruto. And I told you can't stop me. Naruto, we should listen to Kakashi-sensei. Just imagine what mom will do to us if she finds out we went into a war zone to kill a cage. I mean, come on, she'll destroy us," warned Naoko sternly. "But imagine how cool it would look on our records to have the assassination of an insane Mizukage, the container of a tailed beast on there," said Sasuke with a smirk. "Hurry up, you're lagging at runts," shouted out Zabuza to the Leaf Ninja that were falling behind. Team 7 picked up the pace, dragging along Tazuna. They got into a clearing and reached a house that was covered in all kinds of camouflage, trees, brush, branches, and stones. When they entered, it looked completely different and homelike. Zabuza sat on the couch along with Haku, while the Demon Brothers went somewhere deeper into the house. "So, tell me what you want, brat, and why are you so submissive to the kid Kakashi?" said Zabuza. Kakashi, who was reading his porn, kept reading for 5 seconds and then popped his head up and said, "Did you say something?" This earned a tick mark on Zabuza's head. "Enough, let's discuss what we are here for. First off," Naruto looked toward Tazuna, who was drinking in a corner looking around the house. "We are here to protect Tazuna until he finishes the bridge that will connect the Land of Waves to the mainland. You are on orders from a rich lunatic to kill him named Gato. I'm telling you right now that he is going to betray you and ambush you when we have roughed each other up after you would have failed to kill us. So our team is going to make the first move and kill him and his thugs and return the wealth that he sucked from this place to the people. Next, Konohagakure wants an alliance with Kurigakure, a stable Kurigakure, so we are headed on an unsanctioned mission. For now, to get to Kiri, meet up with the rebels, and kill Yagura. From there, Konoha will aid in the recuperation to get it back to its full strength." "And why would Konoha want an alliance with Kiri? What is their agenda?" "As I said, global peace. So why do you need us? We are rogue ninja." "Well, what is an alliance if we've never done anything for each other? We want you, Zabuza, and your Demon Brothers, and Haku to return to Kiri and aid in the recuperation. Basically, you're our way into getting in Kiri's good graces before we get into bed with each other. Less chance for betrayal that way if we know each other beforehand, and how will they not be grateful to us if we return a member of the 7 Swordsmen and the last member of the Yuki clan that can supply them in the future with the Ice bloodline." Fine, we'll take you and make the introductions. We are patriots no matter what anybody thinks. We love our village, and if Konoha will give it back to us, we will take all the help we can get. Really? I didn't expect you to accept so easily. Said Naruto, wondering suspiciously. I'm a smart shinobi, that's how I've survived so long as a missing ninja, and I can tell this is the smart move. After all, if we are not with you, we are against you, am I right? Indeed you are. Well, let's finish of Gato and his men before we get going. Very well. Wait, Naruto, if you are as strong as your father believes, I might not be able to stop you, and with Naoko and Sasuke at your side the chances are probably less, and since I'm your sensei and you guys are practically my family, I'm coming with you. Said Kakashi sincerely. Thank you, Kakashi. Replied Naruto, glad to have a man that he has become fond of over 6 years as a friend by his side. Now let's get to Gato's base. If you are as strong as I think you are, the security shouldn't be a problem. Zabuza walked out of the house with his group in tow, followed by Team 7 and Tazuna. They began to head towards Gato's compound, discussing how they would commence their assault. It was decided that Team 7 would go in the front, while the Kiri group went in silently from behind, and that they would confront Gato together. Gato's base resided on a plateau below a large cliff. It looked like a 2-story mansion, with tents of bandits and rogue ninjas in the space in front of it. This would be easier than they thought, so both teams got into their positions and prepared for the assault. Naruto, however, just stared on at the group below and told his team to stay put. He went to the edge of the cliff that overlooked their base and flew up, surprising his team. Not giving a care in the world, he kept floating up and suddenly placed his hands outward. Shinra Tensei. All the chakra that Naruto gathered up in his hands blew outward and began to crush everything in its path. At first the bandits and the ninja had no idea what was happening. Their comrades were screaming, and they were all trying to run one direction, away from the crater that was being created, as if something was pushing down the ground, decimating all that preceded it. The bandits and ninja were literally dying by the dozens. The entire front area of Gato's house was turning into a crater. About 20 seconds later the enemy camp was gone, the rumbling was gone, and all that was left of a disturbance was a massive dust cloud in the air. Kakashi's one visible eye was wide open, Naoko's mouth was agape, and Sasuke was brooding. They were all wondering how Naruto had such cool abilities. I mean, he was flying in the air and had just pancaked about 300 bad guys into the ground in less than a minute. Not caring about what they thought, Naruto just landed on the ground and spoke, "Let's move." The Leaf Ninja began to walk down the cliff with chakra holding them to it. When they had reached the crater that Naruto's technique made and began walking to the house, they opened the door to Gato's mansion and saw pools of blood beneath figures that had body parts missing and were all dead. They looked as if they were trying to run away from whatever killed them, impaled in the back by a large sword or ripped apart messily by chains. Some had precision holes in them, no doubt targeting vital organs of their body. Naruto, Naoko, Kakashi, and Sasuke all followed the trail of bodies toward a hall with double doors, with a man impaled onto it by his hands, a kunai sticking through them and his throat slit. They opened the door to reveal a group of Kiri ninja and a scared short man in a suit that was pissing himself in a corner. The Kiri ninja, except for Haku, were toying with him, throwing kunai at him, but not trying to strike him. Some cut his clothes or embedded themselves a few inches from the man's appendages. So this is Gato, huh? He doesn't look like such a threat, but looks are quite deceiving. I should know this better than most, I suppose. Said Naruto, eyeing the tiny man. Please help me. I'll pay you anything, just please help me, please. Screamed out Gato. Sure, just give me everything that you own, all your deeds, the paperwork to the ownership of your companies, everything that you hold valuable, and then I'll save you. Spoke Naruto. Okay, just don't let them kill me. Gato walked to the bookcase that he had in his office and pulled on a book, which raised the eyebrows of a few people in the room. The bookcases retracted and revealed a large vault. Gato put in the combination on the dial and opened it to reveal quite a few things, paperwork, stacks of money, and other valuable things that Naruto would indeed look into. But most surprising to Naruto and Naoko was the red Uzumaki swirl on a black flag at the back of the vault. They turned to Gato. Where did you get that flag? Naruto pointed to it. What? Oh, that, I bought it from a store. Gato tried to deflect, knowing that with the look in their eyes, that the flag meant something to them. You would never buy anything like that. Now tell me, where did you get that flag? Please don't kill me, please. I got it from a wasteland about 50 miles west of here. It was once a village called Yuzushiogakure. Said to be an extremely powerful place, and that's why it was destroyed. How much have you taken? Nothing, not yet. Searching and excavations are supposed to begin in a few months. Good. Said Naruto with a smile. Naruto then looked around and saw what he was looking for, the paperwork to Gato's fortune. Sealing everything else, the various items, and the stacks of cash, into a sealing scroll, he grabbed onto the paperwork that would return the Land of Waves fortune to its people. Thank you, Gato, you can kill him now, Zabuza. Naruto said, turning to Zabuza. Naruto was thoroughly pissed off that somebody was going to violate his ancestors' village. Even if they were only partly his ancestors, it still meant a lot to him, especially if the place contained power. Placing the sealing scroll that held most of the vault's contents in his holster and turned to leave. With pleasure. Zabuza said as Naruto walked out of the room, and picking up his sword, Zabuza pointed it at the cowering Gato in the corner. He slashed, and Gato's head went flying in the air and hit the ground 2 seconds later. With Naruto, the two children of the Hokage were having a discussion on what to do about their mother's home village. We are going to see what is left of it and what we can find after this business in Kurigakure. Cool, we're gonna see mom's village, said Naoko, enthusiastically pumping her fist in the air. Zabuza walked out of the office and turned toward Naruto. Let's begin our journey to Kiri. The group had been walking for a week. Kakashi had sent one of his dog summons named Pakin to inform the Hokage of what they were going to do: kill Yagura, gain an alliance with Kiri, and then see what secrets the old destroyed village of Yuzu held. Currently they were walking along a river, not going directly to Kiri, since that was Mizukage-controlled territory. Instead, Zabuza was leading them to the rebel base that was located behind a waterfall which was embedded in a mountain. Zabuza took a pathway that led behind the waterfall, and the rest of the group followed him. Don't talk, just follow my lead and don't do anything to make them think they can't trust you. Zabuza received a nod from the Leaf Ninja, and then they continued walking until they reached a large cave. At the other end of the cave was an opening, but was guarded by 4 shinobi with Kiri headbands. Halt, said one Kiri shinobi, and so they did halt. Who are you? The same man shouted out again. I am Zabuza Momoichi, with me are the Demon Brothers, my disciple a member of the Yuki clan, an aide from Konoha to our cause. They wish to see me to discuss strategy to finally get rid of Yagura. Not expecting what he had just heard, he was kind of surprised. They had not seen or heard from Zabuza for quite a long time. They thought he was out doing jobs and collecting funds for the cause, but here he is with aid from a foreign village. Wait there and do not move. With that, the head guard ninja told one of his men to go get Mei and tell her that help was here. Waiting for what seemed like forever, a beautiful woman walked out of the opening that the shinobi were guarding. Mei was a slender woman that looked to be in her early 20s, maybe younger. She had green eyes and ankle-length auburn hair. The top knot tied with a dark blue band, with 4 bangs at the front. 2 bangs were short, with one covering her right eye, and 2 are long, crossing each other on her bust. She was wearing a long-sleeved dark blue dress that fell just below the knees, closed at the front with a zip, and is kept open on the front right side from the waist down. She also wore shorts in the same color as her dress, and underneath those, mesh leggings reaching down over her knees. Around her waist, she wore a belt with a pouch attached to the back, along with high-heeled sandals and shin guards reaching up over her knees, dark blue polish on her fingers and toes, and wore dark blue lipstick. In short, she was amazing looking, and since she was leading these people, you could infer that she was smart and strong. My, what do we have here? 4 Leaf Shinobi and our old friend Zabuza, along with his posse. To what do we owe the pleasure? Naruto stepped forward, appreciating the cleavage of the beautiful shinobi, but refocused. We are here from Konoha to push forward your cause and help you achieve your goals. We have brought Zabuza and his group with us to aid in this endeavor. We are here to finally get rid of Yagura. And why would Konoha want to help Kiri rebels? Why not just help the Mizukage in stamping us out? If it is an alliance you seek, which is the only thing that you would pull out of this by helping us side, which would be the smarter move. Let's just say that we know Yagura is a madman, and we would rather be allied with you instead of that lunatic that is killing his people in a pointless conflict. Very well, what are your terms? We want a military and trade alliance with Kurigakure after we have disposed of Yagura with you as the new Mizukage. We are willing to provide humanitarian aid after you get your village back. However, all of this must take place within the week. We need to return to Konoha, as the Chunin exams begin in 2 weeks, which we will participate in, right Kakashi? Yay, sure, replied Kakashi, reading his porn. What? You're Genin. How do you expect to help us and kill the Mizukage if Lady Mei can't even do it? And she is stronger than your best man Kakashi. Tell me at least that a battalion of Anbu the Hokage himself is coming to help us. Spoke a middle-aged man with blue hair which is moused up. His left eye was blue and his right eye was covered by an eye patch. He wore a talisman in each ear with the kanji for to hear. He also wore the standard striped gray suit with a green haori that had white trimmings that stop halfway down over them. You would do well to keep your mouth shut before I rip that Byakugan that you took from one of my fallen comrades out of your eye. Naruto activated his own Dijutsu and looked at the man with the eye patch. He elevated the killing intent in the room. Please forgive my bodyguard Ao, but he is right, not to tarnish the abilities of Kakashi. He is indeed a renowned and feared shinobi, but I believe I am stronger than him, and the Mizukage is much stronger than me. The only time he has ever fought me he was holding back, he had not even used the power of his tailed beast. Replied Mei, worried for the future of her people. Do not worry, I am much stronger than Kakashi, earning a snort from the said shinobi, and I can take down the Mizukage on my own, but I will not take back your village for you, you must do this on your own. I'm just here to help. Naruto said, getting tired of the fact that people didn't believe in his power because of his age. He would need to do something to remedy that. Sorry kid, but we aren't gonna take your word on this, you look like a big brat, and we are not going to put all of our resources into one large-scale offensive, which is what you're suggesting, if you want to get this done in 1 week. Countered Ao. Do you require a demonstration, Mr. Bodyguard? Would you like me to beat you into the ground? Goaded Naruto with a raised eyebrow. As if you could. Ao shot back, getting into a battle stance. Ao lunged at Naruto while activating his Byakugan and swept his leg in the air, trying to kick him in the head, but Naruto ducked and grabbed Ao's legs from behind and smashed him into the ground, creating a crater. Ao was quite injured but dragged himself out of the crater and jumped away from Naruto. Naruto used his incredible speed to appear right behind Ao and kicked at the back of his knee, bringing out a kneel, punched him in the back with his super strength, sending him across the large cavern. Ao was knocked out. Turning to Mei, he said, I haven't even shown you a fraction of my power. Now this is a one-time deal, we do this within the week, or we leave. You know kid, you're quite handsome for your age, I like a man who's commanding and knows what he wants. She said with a wry smile and a wink. Fine, come with me to our war room and we'll tell you what our resources are, and you can help us plan this offensive. Mei was leading Naruto and the Konoha shinobi down a maze of hallways, coming across many shinobi from Kiri that were loyal to the cause of the rebels and didn't want to see any more of their countrymen be needlessly killed because their leader had lost his mind. Some of them were heavily injured though, but they looked like a dedicated group of shinobi and were not deterred. However, they would need a very good plan to get them past the week. When they reached the command center of their operation, Naruto was, needless to say, surprised. The room was massive and filled with dozens of Kiri ninja, all centered around maps calling out strategies and giving progress reports on supplies they had secured, revenue they had brought in, or sabotage missions they had completed. The rebels looked organized and Naruto was feeling more optimistic about the future of Kurigakure. Now he needed to see what he was working with to come up with a strategy to get this done. In the Akatsuki, he was the brains of the organization, along with Madara and Obito, and they had gone pretty far with only a little less than a dozen powerful shinobi to bring the world to its knees. Okay, what are we working with, how many men do you have? Asked Naruto, getting ready to set his mind to work. Hoping that the situation was better than he expected. Currently we have 400 shinobi strong, but injured and recuperating at least 200, but they can't fight yet, and we don't have very capable medic ninja to fully heal them. We also now have 2 of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, along with extremely proficient water release users. We have most of the hunter ninja division loyal to us, and we have me. I can use lava release and boil release, good for taking out large groups, but I can also handle myself in single combat. Alright, luckily I'm a somewhat advanced medic, I also have advanced jutsu, so I'll try and get to heal as many of your ninja as I can. If I can get them all, we'll have roughly 600 shinobi on our side. Yes. How many are against us, as in allied with the Mizukage? At most 2,000, but many of them are just afraid of Yagura's power. If we slay him, most will flock to our side. And the rest, hopefully afraid of being outnumbered, will cease fighting as well. Said Mei, knowing how fearsome Yagura's full power was. It took extreme courage or no other choices to go against him. Tell me about the terrain, defenses. Naruto now knew what he had to work with, now he wanted to know what he was going to be up against. He could probably blow his way past any walls or get across vast rivers, but he wanted to fight Yagura off his own turf. Well, the village is surrounded by mountains from several different sides. Large amounts of vegetation cover the structures of our village, and as the name suggests, the mist hides it very well, except when you're inside the village where things clear up. It lies on a large plateau with river intersections here, here, and here. Mei said, pointing out several different icons on the large map on the table. On it was an outline of Kurigakure and the countryside. In the center of the village is where the Mizukage resides. He rarely leaves this building, so I don't know how we are going to get to him without having to push through half the village and all the shinobi that are going to be blocking our way. Simple, we lure him out of his hiding hole. Said Naruto with something already in mind. He knew whose control Yagura was under, he knew what that man wanted. And how do you expect to do that? Asked Mei, confused. He wants you dead, believe me, you are quite a nuisance to his plans, so if he knows where you are, he's going to put everything he has into wiping you from the face of the earth. He may or may not come himself, so let's make it irresistible for him to show his face. Said Naruto, wondering if using his sister as bait was immoral. And how do we plan on doing that? Wondered Mei, what Yagura wanted besides her own death. Well, we show him you, and we will show him something else that he wants, something that he needs in fact, and will not pass up the opportunity to get so easily. Explained Naruto, making up his mind. And what would that be? The Jinchuriki for the 9-tailed fox demon. What? You hold the 9 tails within you? Asked Mei, extremely surprised. No, my sister does, she holds the fox, and Yugura knows this. Naruto explained, not wanting to give too much away. How does Yugura know that? Because Yugura isn't really Yugura, at least the one that you think he is, his mind is being controlled by somebody, he is the one that is behind the bloodline genocide. Again Naruto tried to hide as many facts as he could. How do you know this? I wasn't informed of this until a few months ago by my bodyguard Ao, and he only knows that because he sensed it with a Byakugan. Whoever is doing this to him must be extremely strong to put someone as powerful as Yugura under his genjutsu. Do you know who he is? Mei was getting very suspicious of how Naruto knew as much as he did. No. Naruto lied, he couldn't have people find out about the Akatsuki controlling the Mizukage so early. Wait, after all of this I know so little about you, how are you so skilled, enough to beat my most experienced and skilled bodyguard, and you know medical jutsu, and something that beyond me so few people know, like the fact that Yugura is being controlled. Who are you? I'm the son of the Yondaime Hokage and the Red Death. Currently one of the most powerful shinobi of my village, but I still only hold the rank of genin. Naruto said with a smile. You're the son of the Yondaime? Surprised by this answer, she had heard this boy had killed 13 Kumo Jonin at the age of 6. Indeed I am. Why are you here? I would suspect someone of your stature to be under lock and key, protected by an Anbu at all times. Mei responded, surprised that he was in a war zone. Let's just say I'm that strong. Well, I'm glad that you're here to help us. Mei said. She was getting more and more attracted to Naruto as she learned what he was made of. He was strong, but from what she could tell, he didn't want to be known as the son of the Yondaime and piggyback on his father's fame or his mother's. Naruto wanted to get back to the offensive, so he quickly told her what he wanted to do. He was going to have one of their shinobi go to Yugura and pretend to beg for mercy. To convince him further, he would tell Yugura where the entire rebellion was stationed, a location that they would ambush. To make sure that Yugura came, the shinobi would explain that he overheard that the son of the Yondaime and his daughter, the container of the Nine Tails, along with the revered Hada Kakashi and the last Uchiha, was with them. Hopefully this would be enough to make Yugura come himself. Well, it sounds kind of simple actually, this plan of yours. I'll get a shinobi I trust on it immediately, I just hope that it works. Yeah, me too. Naruto, along with the rest of Team 7 and Mei, most of the Kiri resistance was behind a peak overlooking the field below them. This was where the battle would go down, large enough for them to go wild and be comfortable in the space provided. Naruto beforehand had gone to all the shinobi that were injured and healed them with the medical jutsus that he had learned from Tsunade's scroll, bringing the full battle strength that they could muster. Now Naruto was on par with Tsunade and getting to the point where he could heal himself or others without hand seals and more efficiently than anyone else could. Naruto was now garbed in the battle armor that he loved. It was the traditional armor that he wore in the 4th Shinobi War, what he had fought with so many times before, similar to Madara's own set of armor. Well, Mei, shall we go kill him? Naruto suggested jokingly. This was what they had been planning for meticulously for a few days now, and here it was time to execute their plan, Naruto and Mei, against the Three Tails container Yugura. Let's. Mei and Naruto jumped down to come face to face with Yugura, leading a mass-sized swarm of Kiri shinobi under his command. Yugura was a small person, he had a head of messy, light gray hair, pink pupilless eyes, and what seems to be a stitch-like scar running from under his left eye, all the way down his cheek. On his back he carried a staff-like pole weapon with uneven-sized hooks with a green flower on the larger end. Even if his appearance looked less than menacing, his power was immense. Shall we dance, Mizukage Yugura? What did you just say? Responded Yugura, thinking that he only ever heard one other person refer to fighting as dancing. You know what I said. Naruto responded with a wink, and then he rushed forward, throwing out shuriken to meet the small man. Mei stood her ground while Naruto was distracting the Mizukage and began to form a water dragon, hopefully finishing this fight fast before he unleashed everything he could on them. Yugura pulled out his staff and swung it horizontally at the shuriken flying towards him and deflected them all. Yugura then slashed it at Naruto and turned it around vertically for another slash, but Naruto dodged both strikes. Naruto unsealed his gunbai and tried to smack Yugura with it, but he jumped back and grabbed the edge of it with his hand and pulled it towards him. Naruto, realizing this was a perfect opportunity to impale him with his fist, began to charge his fist with chakra and punched forward, sending Yugura flying backwards, landing at the foot of the Kiri swarm. Yugura jumped upwards, and seeing the water dragon of Mei's, he began to create his own water dragon, shooting it at Mei's, which was on its way toward him. The explosion sent a massive shockwave in all directions, and Naruto turned intangible to not be affected. Mei and Yugura, however, were vaulted backwards. Naruto took this chance to rush Yugura and came down on him with his gunbai. He extended the hidden blade in the gunbai and thrust it downwards, stabbing into nothing but a water clone. Surprised, Naruto didn't expect to be blindsided by a kick to the face that launched him so hard that where he landed became a crater. Mei went to aid him, making hand signs and launched a massive flow of lava at Yugura, which he countered with powerful wave of water, blasting together to make steam, but not all of it was countered. Some of the lava still landed on Yugura, making him scream out in agony. Now that he was hurting, the Mizukage began to go into his tailed state. A red chakra cloaking started emanating from his body. He let out a massive roar and the thousands of shinobi that were looking that their battle began to take a few steps back. Naruto knew the games were over and rushed to Mei's side and summoned his Susanoo, which saved them from the first rush attack of Yugura's, but still pushed them back from the amount of force behind the attack. Naruto had his Susanoo pull out his sword and slash at Yugura, but it hit the ground, creating a shockwave and crater, but Yugura was nowhere in sight. Hearing a roar from above, they looked up to see a red blur falling from the sky and a black dot in its mouth. Naruto knew this was the tailed beast bomb and grabbed Mei, turning both of them intangible, making his Susanoo drop. Yugura was waiting for the explosion to diminish and see a bloody mess, but instead he saw two figures still standing there, Mei and Naruto. Dashing before Naruto could put up his Susanoo again, Yugura rushed. To avoid it, Naruto and Mei separated. Going for the weakest link, Yugura jumped after Mei, who attacked with a corrosive mist that engulfed Yugura, but was not having an effect on the pure chakra skin that Yugura was engulfed in. Mei had no defense and jumped back with Yugura following out of the acidic mist. Trying to draw Yugura's attention from Mei, Naruto ran and smashed down Yugura with a fist just in time to let Mei keep retreating. Naruto kept throwing a barrage of fists at Yugura, each one pounding him further into the ground until Yugura snapped out of the beating that he was being given and surged his chakra to blow Naruto off of him. His anger increasing, he jumped at Naruto, grabbing him by his shoulders and smashed him down, a tailed beast ball forming in his mouth. Naruto used a Shinra Tensei to blow Yugura away from him and turned intangible to stop the beast ball that he disrupted from exploding in his face. It hit Yugura, however, but in his state was only moderately affected. Mei took this chance to spray lava at him from behind, but he spun around, evaded, and rushed after her, not looking to fail this time, and shot out a long arm at the beautiful woman, which hit her, sending Mei tumbling backwards. Naruto, who was trying to think of a way to finish off Yugura, finally decided what he was going to do, but it would require a lot of luck and hopefully a good day for an old acquaintance of his. To use this plan, Naruto would need to weaken Yugura a bit, however. Deciding to put a massive attack into action, Naruto flew through hand seals, and a small black orb was created in the middle of his hands that were forming a triangular shape. Naruto threw that small ball up, and a large gravitational pull was dragging Yugura and the earth surrounding them towards the small ball, now growing in size. For a few seconds, the growing ball was gaining a larger gravitational pull that Yugura was struggling against, and he finally succumbed to being dragged through the sky towards the ball and smashed into it. Mei, regaining her bearings, rejoined Naruto, who was concentrating on keeping the forming mass together. Yugura was not about to go down and went full beast mode. A turtle-like creature with a spiky shell erupted from the mass above the earth and launched itself at the pair. Mei was about to jump but didn't when Naruto blew it away with another Shinra Tensei and dashed after it, putting one-handed seals into play and blew a wall of fire at the beast, pushing it further back. Naruto kept pushing forward with his fire attack when the beast flipped over onto its feet and launched chakra-infused balls of water that collided with the fire, creating a steam that Naruto couldn't see through, and quicker than he could have thought possible for such a big creature, it dashed past him, one of its horns on its way to impaling Mei, who didn't have enough time to react. Naruto had to save her. Without her, things could change too much, to the point this whole plan was more harmful than helpful. Naruto moved to her as fast as he could, but couldn't make it without taking her place, so he collided with her and pushed her out of the way. The horn meant for Mei impaled him instead. It had gone through his armor and smashed him into the floor. As a last resort, Naruto used on of his ocular jutsu and summoned his Susanoo, pushing the tailed beast off of him. Naruto now had a beaten appearance, a hole in his chest, his armor shattered and shirt ripped, revealing some muscle, blood dripping from his mouth. Naruto hoped this would not kill the beast, but put him down for a while. His Susanoo grew 2 more arms, bringing the total to 4, and put them into 2 hand signs. Closing his eyes, Naruto concentrated while the others who were watching this giant battle saw a meteorite penetrate the sky and fall towards Yugura. To not get himself killed in the process or Mei, he grabbed onto her and teleported both of them to his personal dimension, where he kept a lot of things. His dimension wasn't just a void with random rectangular shapes. Instead, it was a large playing field for him to train in, with a large house in the middle. This house held many things. But back to the fight, Naruto waited for a couple of seconds before he took them both back to the battlefield, where there was once a large field, now was a massive crater where a near-death Yugura was gasping for air. Now going to complete his plan, Naruto began a jutsu that he had seen his grandfather use years earlier and summoned the Shinigami. "I need your help sealing the 3 tails inside of me." Naruto gasped out, the hole in his chest was bleeding heavily. Why should I help you? Because we are both in this together, and we both want this world to be saved. I can't die here. The Shinigami, knowing that the child was right, decided to do this and grabbed onto the almost dead Yagura and an almost dead Naruto. Both of his hands went through their chests, but the Shinigami was transporting the three tails into Naruto, sealing it within him, hoping that combined with Naruto's own healing abilities, it would heal him, or it would all have been a waste. Yagura on the other hand was dead, taking such a heavy attack, and having his Biju ripped out of him, he couldn't take any more and died. Naruto was exhausted too, he must have been more affected by the wound in his chest than he thought and fell to his knees and then face planted on the floor. Around Naruto's beaten body rushed his sister Naoko and his friend Sasuke, their teacher Kakashi and Mei, along with a shinobi loyal to her or now loyal to her, with the death of Yagura. Will he be alright? Asked Naoko worriedly, her father looked to be in bad shape. I think so, you've seen him take worse, remember that one time Sasuke accidentally put a Chidori in his chest. And at that Sasuke frowned, at that point he was so scared of losing his one friend, he was afraid that their family would hate him, and he would be isolated for killing the son of the Hokage, fortunately with some healing powers that somehow allowed Naruto to grow back a lung. He did not die, and Naruto forgave Sasuke a while after he woke up. But now he had a giant hole in his chest put there by a tailed beast's horn. None of them knew what he was capable of and were wondering if he had a limit because the powers that he showed during the battle were godlike. He had summoned a meteorite from the heavens, summoned an ultimate defense, taken down Yagura the Mizukage container of a tailed beast. Perhaps this was as far as he could go. Mei however would not let him die, he had done so much for her, he had bled for her and took a blow that would quite have possibly killed her. She would repay him somehow, she vowed it, but right now they needed to keep him alive. I need a medic. Screamed out Mei, she was holding his head on her lap, she saw blood everywhere, but what was most interesting was that the wound seemed to be piecing itself together, the big hole was now getting smaller, and quickly. I think he's going to be okay. Said Mei, looking relieved. Good. Whispered Kakashi, Naruto was like family to him, a little brother that he could teach cool things to, and his father, he looked up to him as his own father, he was the man who trained him to be who he was today, he couldn't fail Minato, and if his son died on his watch in an unsanctioned mission, shit would hit the fan. Come on, let's bring him back to our infirmary, a medic might be able to help him more. Yeah, let's go. Kakashi grabbed Naruto and carried him bridal style back to their camp. Before Mei left however she moved to address all the shinobi that were present, shinobi of Kurigakure. We have been plagued by a pointless war, instigated by our once beloved Mizukage. But I am here to tell you that Yagura was not Yagura anymore, the one we looked to for protection has been dead, the fractured mind of his former self resided within, now we are free from his tyranny. I beg you, join me, join us, and help us rebuild Kurigakure to the glory that we once held, where we were respected as one of the strongest 5 elemental villages. Let me lead you to our future and never look back on this dark chapter of our history. That simple speech was met with thunderous applause from all the Kiri shinobi. Mei stood above them as they all cheered her on. Kneel before our Mizukage. Shouted out one shinobi and he kneeled, the rest soon followed. Rise my loyal shinobi, it is time to embrace our future. Mei shouted out and they headed back to their home, to Kurigakure. Kakashi however was on the way to the rebellion base getting treatment for Naruto, he was almost healed but had not yet woken up, his body repairing itself like that was taking quite a toll. But it seemed that his life was out of danger for the time being. Kakashi, now not worried about his charge, told Sasuke and Naoko to stay with him, he needed to speak with Mei, that she needed to come to Konoha to get the Hokage and the council to formally agree to their alliance. Kakashi found her at the gates of Kurigakure staring on out at her home. Lady Mei, we need to get going back to Konoha, Naruto seems to be healing, but he still hasn't woken up, so we are taking him back just as a precaution. I would also like you to come back as well, as the newly appointed Mizukage negotiations over this alliance should begin with you, since Naruto is a shinobi of Konoha and the son of the Hokage, our council will have no choice but to meet with you to discuss whether our village will come to an alliance with yours. Kakashi explained. Very well, let's get going. Replied Mei, happy that her village had a brighter future ahead of it and hopefully this alliance will be a step in that direction. The civilian council and the shinobi council were gathered together on two sides of the large council chambers. At the head of the chamber was the 4th Hokage Minato Namikaze, sitting in the center of the chamber was the new Mizukage of Kurigakure, Mei Terumi. In the report from my student Kakashi, my son offered a trade and military alliance with Kurigakure, he defeated the former Mizukage Yagura, a container for a Biju, with you fighting alongside him. Now I am inclined to accept this offer with you, one can never have too many alliances, but I ask of you, what do you want from us? Making sure Mei had good intentions. Just what you expect from us in return, if a village were ever to attack us, you would come to our aid and in turn if a village ever attacked you, we would fight by your side. We also request trade routes be opened up between our two villages, as we are very diverse in terrain and culture. Exchange of goods could be a good way to increase both of our economies. May was hoping to get more aid and benefits later on. I can't help but agree. Minato was sure she wanted more, but he would hold his tongue. Many of the shinobi also agreed, as well as the civilian council. However, the war hawk Danzo Shimura would not have it. How do we know that you will not betray us? Even if that was not a factor, your village just had a civil war, you are weak, and it would be too long before you could provide the same military strength that we have at our disposal. I do not advise we take this alliance, Minato. Well, unfortunately Danzo I and most of the rest of the council agree. Of course the Warhawk would not keep quiet. We do not, however. Stated Hamaru and Kaharu, we agree with Danzo, this alliance seems to be rushed into, we do not have a bond of trust, and there are no benefits for us allying with them after the chaos that their village is in. With all due respect, elder council members, our village is not in chaos but is united. I promise this council that Kurigakure will not need Konoha to carry it upon its shoulders. We can handle ourselves for now, until you are willing to provide us with aid when we can provide the same. Very well, Mizukage, but we still do not know if we can trust you. We must cement our alliance beyond simple agreements. Warned Hamaru, they had learned that words on a piece of paper were not the best ways to keep agreements upheld. And how do you suggest we cement our alliance? Asked May, wondering what the village elders had in mind. Lord Hokage, what about marriage? Kaharu suggested. What? But I'm already married. Minato screamed out, Kaharu would be dead if Kushina was in the room. Not you, Lord Hokage, but your son. If what Kakashi said is true, your son is extremely strong. He was able to take down the Mizukage and displayed an immense amount of skill and abilities. He is able to use the Susanoo and devastating techniques that we do not even know. I mean, how was he able to summon a meteor from the sky to smash the tailed form of Yagura? Not to mention that he is from the lineage of two of the most powerful shinobi in all of history. He has the lineage and the strength. We must admit that when he gets older, and if he can maintain or get stronger, he is certainly a candidate for the title of Hokage after your tenure, Minato. While this was Bane said, Danzo was wondering if he could get his hands on Naruto. The village would indeed be supreme with a figure like Naruto by his side. He had seen the ruthlessness in the boy's heart, if only he could unleash it fully. So you're saying you want me to marry Naruto, a possible Hokage candidate for your village in the future, to make this alliance happen? May tried to clarify, not minding the idea. Indeed, he has already gained the favor of many of our village's clans. He has saved the heir to the Hyuga, he is friends with the last Uchiha, he is powerful, and he has the support of many influential people in Konoha. It certainly is a possibility. Very well. May confirmed, wondering how Naruto would take it. Wait a second, how old are you even? Minato was wondering the age difference between his son and his future wife. I'm 21. May said, getting angry. She hated when people brought up her age. You're 9 years older than him. Minato was now thinking this was a bad idea. I know. May said, getting angrier and angrier with each comment. So he is your future husband. Congratulations, Hamaru stated, wanting to get this over with. I hear he is participating in the Chunin exams this year. May asked, hoping to be there to cheer Naruto on. Indeed he is. Speaking of that, we need to train him to show off his skills and display him to the rest of the villages and daimyos. Kaharu wanted to show off the boy's skills and the superiority of their village. May I come see him? May asked, maybe Kurigakure could also participate in the exams. Of course. Minato said. Besides, he is going to need multiple brides when he becomes part of the Clan Restoration Act, along with Sasuke to revive the Uzumaki, Senju, and the Uchiha. Kaharu said, giving a stern look towards Minato, who just glanced away. Minato was wondering how he was going to tell his son that he needed to build 2 clans and take multiple wives. Very well, this meeting is adjourned. I am looking forward to the fruits of our alliance, Mizukage May Terumi. Minato began to walk toward May with a smile. As am I, Hokage Minato Namikaze. May walked toward the Hokage with a smile too. And with that, the 2 Kages walking toward each other shook hands, finalizing that they were now partners in war and in peace. Naruto was walking out of the hospital. He had awoken a few hours ago after having a long talk with the 3 Tails. That giant turtle had berated him and insulted him, but Naruto told him who was boss, and that he would reunite him with his brethren with his help, that he would save the world, and he was the one that the sage of the 6 paths foretold of. After that statement, the Sanbi had a calculating look to his face and decided to help the kid. If what his father said was true, and his father always told the truth, this child would save the world. Naruto was walking down the street when he saw a guy with a black suit on holding up the grandson of the Sandaime, somebody that he was somewhat close to, Konohamaru. Next to him was a pretty girl that couldn't have been more than a few years older than him. Focusing, he decided that they were here for the Chunin exams that would begin in a few days. Not wanting to let them go without a welcome, he went into action. Please let me go, please. Konohamaru was begging this man that was holding him up by the neck. But instead one of his friends had come to his rescue. Naruto was behind the kid with a black suit and paint on his face with a kunai to the guy's throat, another to the girl's. He now saw that she was carrying a large war fan, and both of them had a headband with the Sunagaker symbol on it. "Put the grandson of the Sandaime down now," said Naruto emotionless. The command left no room for argument. Kankuro, not wanting to let this guy punk him, didn't let the kid he was holding go. "I bet you don't have the guts too," he couldn't finish, as the kunai was dug a little deeper enough to draw blood. A rock came from a tree close by, hitting Kankuro on the hand and made him drop Konohamaru. Kankuro looked to where the rock came from and saw a raven-haired boy sitting down on a branch. "Why you little," again he was interrupted by a punch to his stomach coming from Naruto that dropped him to his knees. "Come on out, mister. One tail." Naruto sensed the container for Shukaku, Gaara, on the same tree as Sasuke. What Naruto called Gaara surprised Kankuro and Temari. How did he know that Gaara held the one tail? "Who are you?" questioned Gaara, also wanting to know what his siblings were thinking. "Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of the Yondaime Hokage. I suppose you are the son of the Kazekage, and so these must be your brother and sister, the Sand siblings, I presume," Naruto stated. "Indeed they are, Kankuro and Temari. I am Gaara. It is a pleasure to meet you, Naruto." "The pleasure is mine, Gaara, but let me warn you, if you let loose that psychotic raccoon you hold within you, I'm going to take it from you and kill you." Sasuke and Konohamaru were wondering what Naruto was talking about. Temari and Kankuro, however, were freaking out on the inside. The son of the Yondaime knew that their brother was a Jinchuriki. Him telling his father that sand had its tailed beast in Konoha could ruin everything. "I presume you are going to be taking part in the Chunin exams then along with us?" asked Gaara, interested in fighting the kid. "Indeed I am," answered Naruto. "Well, it's going to be interesting when we meet." "I'm sure it will. I'm looking forward to it." "Kankuro, Temari, let's go." Gaara turned to leave, his siblings following with him. "Wait." Naruto interjected quickly. "Yes?" questioned Gaara. "Temari, was it?" "Yes. Would you like to grab some lunch with me?" What?" asked Temari, not knowing what to do. She had never been asked on a date before because all the boys in Suna were always too scared of her brother Gaara to even approach her. Not only that, but she was mostly too focused on being a stronger Kunoichi for her father and her village to have time to go out on dates or be sociable. But now this foreign shinobi who looked quite attractive, and if intelligence was right and he was the son of the Yondaime, then he was very strong. "I asked if you would like to have some lunch with me, you know, before you have to go do whatever you have to do with your team. I mean, there is still about a week before the exams. What are you going to do in that time besides explore the village? I'll show you around if you would like," Naruto explained with a smirk. Temari turned to Gaara and Kankuro to see what they thought. They were here on a mission and they needed to tread carefully. The future of their village rested on the invasion. With the Wind Daimyo cutting their funding again, they needed to display their superiority, and this invasion would do just that. Gaara just gave a nod and began to walk away again, Kankuro following along. Sure, let's get going," Temari said, unsure of what was going to happen. "Great, I know this amazing place a few blocks from here," said Naruto, eyeing the green-eyed blonde-haired girl which was gathered into 4 ponytails. Temari's outfit consisted of a single light purple-colored off-the-shoulders garment that extended to halfway down her thighs, with a scarlet sash tied around her waist. Fishnet was worn over her shoulders and legs, specifically on her right calf and her left thigh. She also wore her black forehead protector around her neck. Naruto held out his hand, and Temari looked at it, unsure of what to do again. She was bad at doing anything but being a kunoichi, but instead of just standing there, she regained her composure and reached out to hold it, not wanting to look like an idiot. She was the Kazukige's daughter, and he was the Hokage's son. Temari needed to keep it together. "So tell me about yourself, Temari," Naruto asked, wanting to know about this girl, even though he somewhat knew her in his past. She was a warrior for sure. She was strong and beautiful. Someone that he could actually maybe get close to. In his past he never got close to anybody much. He had defected from his village at the age of 16 to join a group of S-class criminals bent on dominating the world. It didn't leave much time for romance. "How about you start first to give me an example? It's courtesy to go first if you ask something of somebody," Temari replied, not sure of what she should say. "Well, my name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. I am a genin. I like my family, my friends. I like to train and study, to make new techniques. I dislike arrogant people who can't back up their talk. I respect people who are trying to get stronger. My dreams for the future are to save the world from itself. And that's mostly all there is to me on a philosophical level. Now your turn." Naruto summed it up, trying to think of what he might have missed, but they were now at the entrance of the restaurant. It was called the Yellow Lantern. They walked inside and the receptionist began to walk towards them. He gave Naruto a large smile and greeted him. "Mr. Namikaze, it's so good to see you again. Shall we get you to the usual table, sir?" "Yes, I would appreciate it, Ellen. And can you tell Hyan to prepare her specialty? I'm trying to impress the beauty here," Naruto said with a smile, wondering how Temari would take the comment. Thank you Naruto. Temari said blushing. Ellen led Naruto and Temari up a spiraling staircase that was in the middle of the restaurant toward the top and put them in a secluded corner with the table off by itself. The tablecloth was elegant and there was a single lantern in the middle burning brightly, the small source of light there. Okay, it's your turn. Naruto said, getting situated into his seat. Sure, but first tell me why he called you Mr. Namikaze and treats you like you own the place. Temari questioned, finding that weird. Well, I don't own the place, my father does. He owns a couple of things in Konoha actually. The Namikaze family was one of the families that came to the village very close to the time after it was founded, and they did well for themselves here. Naruto moved on to explain how they owned a prestigious weapon shop, a clothing store, some restaurants, and the one that they were at included. Beyond that, they had numerous investments in other parts of Konoha. Wow, so you're basically rich? Questioned Temari, wondering why he wasn't stuck up. I mean, my family is, but we are not that focused on the wealth. We are a shinobi family at heart, so that is the aspect of life that we are most involved with. Naruto explained. My family is something like that, I guess. My father, being the Kazekage, didn't really have time to remotely be a father to us with everything going on in Suna, but he made sure that we were trained to be the deadliest ninja that we could become. I hate to say this, but that doesn't sound much like a childhood. How old are you anyway? Years of training to become a killer must be quite taxing on your psyche. Naruto said, not knowing that she was subjugated to being made a killer for years. I'm 16, and yes, it was quite taxing, but we are not as dehumanized as one might think, but my brother Gaara is another matter. I don't tell this to anybody, but he kind of scares me. He never sleeps, and if he does, his Biju goes on a rampage. It has caused his mind to become unstable. I really am worried about him, but I don't think I have that right. I want to show him I care for him, but I can't ever bring myself to do it. Temari confessed, not knowing why she just said that to a foreign shinobi. Wow, I think you've been waiting to get that off your chest for a long time, huh? But I guess I could understand. In my early childhood, I was not so close with my sister. She radiated the sense that I couldn't shake. A while after I told my parents that, they told me why. She was a Jinchuriki for the nine-tailed fox. But now I can't make fun of her so much for having a fox inside of her. Recently I have acquired a Biju myself. I now hold the Sanbi, the three-tailed turtle. Temari was absorbing all of this information very quickly, and then something hit her. Wait, you are a Jinchuriki? Wait, you hold the Sanbi? I thought the three tails was held by the Mizukage Agura, and Konoha shinobi helped the new Mizukage kill him, so how do you hold that tailed beast? Temari screamed out. The only way he could have gotten that Biju was if he was there and was able to seal it in himself. Her father got intel that a powerful Konoha shinobi helped to liberate Kurigakure, and it was part of their mission to find candidates who could have been the ones able to do that. Naruto, knowing what she was thinking, confirmed it for her. Yes, it was me. I was the one who helped Mei take down Yagura. He gave a smirk at the face she was making. Her mouth was making a small circle as it was kept open by her shock. But how? You're barely a genin. You're a 12-year-old fresh out of the academy. Temari let slip what she knew about Naruto. It was Naruto's turn to give her a suspicious glance. How do you know that about me? We look basically around the same age. I'm even taller than you, even if by only a little. Naruto confronted her. Well, you know, I was briefed a lot on what we could face in Konoha, knowing the family of the Hokage were basics. Temari made a quick excuse. The only reason she knew about the Hokage's family was because the Hokage was the Yellow Flash, his wife the Red Death, his daughter the Container for the Nine Tails, and his son killed 13 Kumo Jonin at the age of 6 all by himself, something that she could probably never do. And they were all major players in Konoha, perhaps enough to put a dent in the invasion plans. Oh, well, that makes sense, I guess. Naruto let the subject drop because their food had arrived. Waiters followed by Dellen brought out a few plates of food that looked extremely delicious. Temari began to understand why she had seen so many people downstairs. She wondered if it was as good as it looked. In Suna, the food was more of the basics. They valued water and something to eat. After all, they resided in a desert. They didn't take luxuries for granted. Well, Temari, dig in. I'm sure you love it. Naruto invited with a smile, pointing at something that looked like a piece of chicken, surrounded by vegetables, and on the side was rice. Temari wondered what to go for first, and she didn't waste any time. She began to dig in immediately. A few minutes and she had eaten everything on all the plates, and Naruto was just looking at her with an expression resembling shock and admiration. What he had just witnessed was like a person inhaling very rapidly, but instead of air it was food. She had not even paused to take a drink. Wow, Temari, were you that hungry? Naruto commented. Oh, I'm sorry, it's just that it was all delicious. We don't have food like this in Suna. Temari apologized when she saw that Naruto hadn't even gotten to eat any of the food. It's alright, it's nice to see someone appreciate good food. I don't tell anybody this, but I enjoy cooking. I might be too optimistic, but I think that it's on par with the food that Hien makes. replied Naruto. Well Tamari, if you don't mind me calling this a date, I would like to end this date with something that I think is a part of the real us. Would you like to finish the evening with a spar at my family's personal training ground? Well Naruto, you are a fighter and you like to cook, I wonder what other secrets you hold. Tamari was starting to be impressed by this kid, but something was bothering her very much. This kid took down the Mizukage. How did he gain such power at such a young age? She was going to see if he was telling the truth. She would spar with him and test his power. But yes, let's go spar. It's going to be interesting to see what the child of another cage can do. Good, let me take you to my family's house. The training ground is in the back. Naruto grabbed onto her hand again, and they left the restaurant thanking Dellen on the way out. They were walking along the streets of Konoha making their way to the Namikaze compound. They passed shops and Konoha landmarks that Naruto explained to Tamari. Naruto and Tamari were talking about the various stories of history from their respective villages that intrigued the both of them, and they were getting along great. Oi Naruto, fraternizing with the enemy are we? Come on brother, you never understood boundaries, this is crossing the line. Just imagine what dad will think. And mom. You know how she gets about you dating. Not that you have ever had a girlfriend before, but still. Daddy and mom are going to be so mad. Naoko just rattled off, not letting Naruto talk or for Tamari to explain themselves. Shut up Naoko. Naruto couldn't handle her blabbering. What are you doing out here anyway, shouldn't you be at home? I forgot mom wanted me to bring some flowers home, so I'm going to get some from the Yamanaka shop. And what are you doing huh? Naoko put her hands on her hips giving him a knowing look. You know what I was doing Naoko, now leave us alone. Naruto wanted to get away from this embarrassing display that they were putting on. Fine then brother, but don't have with her, you're 12 and she looks way older than you, or are you into that kind of thing you know with older women, I think they're called cougars. But anyway if you have with her I'm telling mom. And then she'll cut your junk off with her super awesome sword. Oh wait, daddy wanted me to tell you to meet at training ground 7 tomorrow, he says he has something special to teach us. Anyway bro, see ya at home. Naoko finished and skipped off to the flower shop, leaving an extremely embarrassed Naruto and Tamari behind. I am so sorry about what just happened, Naruto let out after what seemed like an hour of silence. His red face met hers, and they just looked away again. Come on, let's get to sparring and let off some steam. Yeah, you're right, let's go. Besides, she wasn't so bad beside what she said, she is kind of adorable. Tamari tried to lighten the mood, thinking about her own family situation and how they were complete opposites from Naruto. They continued walking until they reached the large Namikaze compound, which impressed Tamari, but she lived in a compound about the same size, so she didn't really show it. Naruto began to walk around toward the back, and Tamari saw the place where they would be fighting. Well, this is it, shall we get started? Naruto asked, wondering how she would fare against him. For sure. Tamari smirked and was already calculating a plan and ways to take him out. She was a mid to long range wind user, and she knew close to nothing about his fighting style, other than that he was a Jinchuriki now. He was extremely powerful, and had been under the tutelage of the Yellow Flash. He could come out to be a formidable opponent. Tamari was never one to wait, as she showed Naruto with a massive amount of food she consumed in such a short time. So she made the first move and launched her attack. She extended her war fan and thrust it down once and then many more times in quick succession. Every thrust resulted in blades of wind rushing towards Naruto, slicing the ground that they were on and the trees behind him. They threatened to slice apart Naruto, however every attack passed through Naruto as he stood still, his arms crossed and a smirk on his face. Tamari had no idea how Naruto was not affected by her attacks. She was throwing her strongest barrage of attacks, trying to finish him off quickly and maybe slightly impress him, and she expended a generous amount of chakra on those attacks and had nothing to show for it. What the hell, how are you doing that? Tamari wanted an explanation, huffing and puffing. And then her analytical mind saw something that she had not noticed before when she was focused on her attack. His eyes looked different. You know, deception is a ninja's best tool. Naruto smirked and then rushed her at extreme speeds that Tamari barely had a chance to react to. Naruto unsealed his gunbai and thrust it downward. It clashed with Tamari's fan, and Tamari's surprised face was below it. Both of them were struggling to push each other and attain dominance, but it didn't happen, mainly because Naruto was holding back his strength and matching it with Tamari's to not completely destroy her. They kept pushing until Naruto jumped back and did a similar move that Tamari did with her fan. He thrust it horizontally, and a blast of wind emanated from it and hit Tamari, sending her tumbling backwards. Turning the tumble into a set of backflips, she regained her footing and commented, "So you use your gunbai the same way I use my fan, huh? And you must be an advanced wind style user too, if you have the ability to do what I can with a ninja tool made to complement wind." Surprised how she had found a shinobi with a similar fighting style to her own. Sort of, but I am far beyond just using or manipulating wind chakra. In fact, I can use several natures and secret techniques, but it isn't smart to show off everything that I have in my arsenal so carelessly. Anyway, shall we continue? Naruto brought up his gun by. Yes. Temari, not wanting to be shown up by a kid years younger than her, she rushed toward him and flipped upwards and smashed down her giant fan in closed and locked position vertically on Naruto's head, but she passed right through him. In retaliation, he jumped up to plant his feet on her fan and ran up to kick her in the face, but she ducked and propelled herself up to latch her arms onto his ankles and brought him down, smashing him on the floor. When the dust settled, all that she saw was a crumbling earth clone. Immediately on alert, she tried to jump out of the way and dodged a punch that created a crater in the ground. Turning to him, Temari saw the testament to his immense strength and again charged him, swinging her fan diagonally, but he caught it with his hand. In a quick maneuver that would have taken out Naruto if he had not taken earlier precautions, Temari uncharacteristically dropped her fan and pulled out a kunai from her back pouch and slashed it at Naruto's throat, everything happening at Jonin speeds. Temari's kunai slashed through Naruto's clone, but unfortunately it was a lightning-style clone, and as it dissipated shocked her, causing her to scream out in agony and pass out from the pain. Temari dropped to her knees and then was about to fall to the floor, but Naruto, appearing from the ground, caught her in his arms. "Oh crap, I think I went a bit overboard." Naruto was holding Temari up, her face in his chest, wondering what to do with her. He didn't know where her team was staying, and it was pretty late out. Maybe he could just let her sleep in his room while he took the couch. After all, he was a bit tired from the long day and would rather rest than put the effort into trying to find where they were staying at. Naruto picked up Temari bridal style and began to walk into the house. He tried to avoid his mom, who was reading something in the living room, so he could avoid the questions and the beating, and spun through the kitchen. Naruto began to walk upstairs to put Temari in his room. He walked down the hallway and pushed the door open with his foot. Naruto entered his bedroom to reveal a large area with a king-size bed covered by silk sheets, several pillows. Next to it was a nightstand littered with books on advanced genjutsu techniques, advanced sealing arts, theories for how space and time work. In front of the bed was a spacious rug that separated it from the mahogany desk pressed against the wall. On it were sacred texts and scrolls on secret techniques and chakra manipulation. For a while, he had been trying to learn how to use the more powerful black lightning that only 2 people in Kumo had mastered. Naruto was also trying to learn how to combine natures to use releases that only bloodline users could use, but he could also access with the powers of his eyes. Under that all was a map of the elemental nations that he had taken various notes on about the people or items that were spread out along various locations. Naruto moved to his bed and set Temari down, tugging off her shinobi sandals that were covering her feet, and covered her with his comforter. He placed her giant fan leaning against the wall and looked down on her. She looked beautiful sleeping. Naruto began to walk out of the room and heard his family walking up the stairs. They reached the top and he greeted them. "Hey guys, going to sleep?" "Yeah, and you should too. We have a big day tomorrow. I need to teach you and Naoko a few things in preparation for the Chunin exams. They'll take place in 4 days, so you need to sign the release forms for me." Minato informed his son. "Yeah, okay, sure, good night guys." Naruto replied. "Good night, Naruto." His parent said back. "Good night, bro. Oh wait, how was your date with the Suna cougar? Did she, how do you say it, tickle your pickle?" Naoko giggled at her brother, who was turning red. "Shut up, Naoko, jeez." Naruto shouted out. "What's she talking about, Naruto?" Kushina's interest was piqued. "Yeah, Naruto, what Suna cougar?" Minato was also interested. "I saw him walking with some girl with a giant fan on her back and a Suna headband on." Naoko informed them, and they were holding hands. "What?" Kushina exploded. "Mom, please, we just ate dinner at the Lantern." Naruto explained, lifting his hands in surrender. "Wait, a giant fan? Temari no Sabaku?" The Kazukiya's daughter, Minato shouted. He hadn't expected Naruto to have a girlfriend, especially a foreign one. He had been waiting for a good time to tell Naruto about his arranged marriage to the Mizukage. Yeah." Naruto said, still embarrassed. "Well, I want to meet this little tramp. I thought the Kazukiya's daughter was 16 and you're 12. Kushina was mad now and would make sure that this girl paid when she met her. Minato had to get his wife off of the subject. It would be an international disaster if the Hokage's wife killed the Kazukiya's daughter. Kushina. "They're children, leave them alone now, come on, let's go to sleep, we have a big day tomorrow." Kushina understood. Minato was going to teach their children how to perform the Rasengan and get them started on learning the Flying Thunder God, so she let it go and began walking to their room, muttering a fine on her way. Minato followed, giving his son a wink, and Naoko walked to her room, giving him a wink too. Naruto began to walk downstairs and grabbed a blanket from the closet. He then went to the couch to settle himself for the night. Temari awoke, her face snuggled into a pillow, the comforter wrapped tightly around her, embracing her like a cocoon. Her eyes were fluttering open in a blurry haze. She unwrapped herself to reveal her in her outfit. Her mind was on autopilot and she smelled something delicious coming from somewhere outside. She droned her way towards that smell and almost fell down a set of stairs that she didn't remember the hotel her and her brothers were staying in had. When she got downstairs, Temari walked closer to the smell and said, "What are you cooking, Kankuro?" I didn't know you could cook. Temari was in the kitchen and came face to face with Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, in only shorts showing off his muscled body, more mature than a 12-year-old should be. He was sipping orange juice and had a spatula in his hand, like if he had been cooking. Around him was his family, the Yondaime Hokage, the Red Death, and the one that had embarrassed them earlier, his little sister Naoko. And they were all looking at her. "Oh hi Temari," Naruto said, looking in between his family who was just looking at her surprised. Kushina was the first one to be knocked out of her stupor and realized the situation. Then she showed why she was once called the Red Hot Habanero as an academy student but became the Red Death when she could actually kill people when she lost her temper. "Hold her down Minato, and if Naruto tries to run, stop him, let me go grab my sword." But that she dashed out of the room at Jonin speed going to get her sword, leaving a still shocked Minato and Naoko, but they knew what the sword meant. "Run Naruto, don't stop," Minato said as Kushina sped back and almost decapitated Temari, except that Minato rushed to her first and defended her with a Hirishin kunai that he always kept around. Naruto grabbed Temari by the hand and rushed out of the house, dragging her along. "Minato, what are you doing? She's getting away," Kushina said angrily, bloodthirst in her eyes for the girl that took her baby's innocence and her stupid son who was a horny little bastard. "I'm sorry about that Temari, my mom is a bit overprotective of us." Naruto apologized that his mom almost decapitated her. "It's no problem, I think I can understand. Anyway, what happened last night? Why did I wake up in your bed?" Temari was still freaked out, but she didn't want to show it. She was a bad Asuna Kunoichi after all. "During our spar I shocked you with a lightning-style clone after you tried to slice my throat," Naruto screamed out. "Oh, I'm sorry about that, it's just that I go all out when I fight. It's not like you didn't showing off all of those moves. What was that jutsu that you used to turn intangible? And showing off with your multiple elemental style clones, and what was that jutsu?" Temari rattled off. Remember what I said about a ninja most valuable tool? Well, I haven't shown you many of my skills. As for the Dojutsu, that's something that I very closely guard as a secret," Naruto said mysteriously. "Well, I want my fan back, so give it to me when we meet for the exams." Temari began to walk off and head toward where her team would be, barefoot as her sandals were still in the Namikaze household. "Wait, will I see you again outside of the exams?" Naruto asked hopefully. "No." Temari shot over her shoulder and looked forward again. She didn't want to admit that she had fun yesterday on her date with him and enjoyed the look of his body in the morning. However, when the invasion would come, she didn't want to feel the extreme guilt for her betrayal after they became more attached to each other. For all they knew, they would die fighting each other, or at least a shinobi from their respective villages. Minato was waiting for his son who was late. He himself could use a breather. He took quite a beating when he was trying to defend his son and the Kazukige's daughter from being chopped into pieces. Kushina was even threatening to withhold if he didn't punish Naruto, however he would still probably not have time for anyway. With the exams coming up, he still needed to make accommodations for all the lords and daimyos coming, beef up security, and then train Naruto and Naoko for as long as he could. "Hello father, sister." Naruto was walking up towards him, his hands in his pocket. "At last you show up, getting lucky again huh?" Minato winked at his son. "We just got a bite to eat together father," Naruto said, not wanting to get into it. "At the Lantern, our most prestigious restaurant, trying to impress her weren't you?" Minato said with a smirk. He remembered doing the same with Kushina. "No father, besides she doesn't want to be involved like that anyway. We are both participating in the Chunin exams after all. For all we know we could end up fighting each other when everything is on the line," Naruto muttered out. "Don't worry son, first rejections are always tough to take. I think your mom was my first and only girlfriend, so I wouldn't know, but yeah, on a better note, you won't believe what happened in the council meeting with the Mizukage Terumi." Minato was cut off when his daughter, being her impatient self, barged into the conversation. "Daddy? Can we begin training already? The Chunin exams are so close, we can't waste time with meaningless talk. We must seize the day." Naoko fist pumped the air. "Well alright, first let me tell you guys what we are going to do these few days. We are going to begin training on the Rasengan and the Hirishin." Minato said, excited that he was going to pass on his original techniques to his children. "Really daddy? That's awesome. We'll become as super powerful as you now." Naoko ran to hug her dad, which he gladly accepted. "I am honored father." Naruto bowed his head. "Okay, well first, here these are for you too." Minato tossed 2 water balloons to his children. "The Rasengan begins with these. First, you know how you walk on trees using chakra and walk on water the same way? Well, that is how you begin. First emit chakra to your palm and irritate the water so that it begins rotating in a clockwise direction. Rotate it enough so that you pop a balloon, which is the first stage, controlling chakra on another part of your body, in this case your palm, like your feet with the walking exercises. If you need more balloons, there are some in that bin over there, but first let me show you how. Minato grabbed a balloon from the bin and agitated the water within with chakra. It began to get all lumpy before it finally exploded. Naruto and Naoko put determination into their faces and began to go to work. However, Naruto made shadow doppelgangers, about 50 of them, and grabbed the balloons in the bin and began to cause the water in them to rotate. Naoko looked at him questioningly. It's for the training, Naoko. The clone's experience transfers to him when they dissipate, so he learns from their mistakes and what worked for them, so he can get it faster. Minato explained, impressed, thinking this was probably the way that Naruto made leaps and bounds in his training. You're such a cheap bro. Naoko shouted at him and was jealous that he could do it. Naruto continued with the process, and in a few hours after he was explained it, the balloon exploded from the rapid rotation. A tip, Naoko, after you try to rotate, you need to agitate it further by making the rotation go in many ways, that way the instability causes more power. Well done, Naruto. Now the next step, you need to do that again, but with a stiffer ball and only chakra, no water this time. Minato tossed Naruto a ball, and he began doing what his clones learned again. He then began to swirl his chakra and had more difficulty. 4 days later, they were still going, that ability coming from their massive chakra reserves. Naruto had made the stiffer ball explode, and Naoko had exploded the water one. Now that he had down rotation and power, he was working on maintaining the shape with an air balloon, making his chakra swirl in many directions, but trying to keep a spherical shape. After a while, Naruto got the Rasengan down, and Minato went on to explain how to use the Hirishin, while Naoko was still working on the Rasengan. Alright, Naruto, now it's time to learn the Hirishin. First we need to maximize your chakra control. Minato was interrupted when Naruto put his hand up. My chakra control is impeccable. Naruto put his right index finger and middle finger together and raised it above his left shoulder. He then sliced the space in front of him diagonally, and the tree in front of them was cut in half, along with the 4 behind it. You can emit blades of wind with just your fingertips, Minato questioned, and was surprised that he had that level of control. He knew that Naruto could perform the technique with a sword, but doing it from a body part is an entirely different level. Indeed, now please continue with instructions for the Hirishin. Naruto motioned for his father to continue. Alright, well, if you have control down, all that is left is the explanation. The Hirishin is basically like a summoning jutsu, but instead of teleporting something you teleport yourself, and instead of having to perform the hand seals and the blood offering you will yourself to whatever holds the seal formula, but getting it down takes quite a lot of effort. Now, to make the formula yours and having it allow you to be able to use it, you must imbue it with a small portion of your chakra, that way it is connected to you, and for that reason you cannot use my own. Minato took out a black 3-pronged kunai from his back pouch. He then went to hand it to Naruto. This is yours. I didn't want us to get our kunai confused with each other's, so I will have the yellow, you the black, and Naoko the red. Now you imbue it with your chakra, toss it somewhere, and will yourself to it using the chakra that you have put in it to act as a beacon. Go on, give it a try. Minato took a step back and an evil smirk on his face. Naruto didn't notice this and threw the kunai at a nearby tree. He felt the chakra there and willed himself to it. What the hell, oh shit. Naruto shouted out. At first he had found himself in the space surrounded by nothing. He tried to begin to walk, but his feet touched nothing, and that's when he realized he was about 100 feet in the sky, his dad and sister tiny dots below. Naruto began to plummet to the earth and was flapping his hands and kicking his legs like a chicken with its head cut off, the earth below getting closer and closer. He began to think of a way to not get splattered all over the ground when he remembered he had power over gravity. With a Shinra Tensei right before he hit the ground, he was able to stop the momentum enough to land on his feet without breaking anything. Naruto looked toward where his father and sister were and gave them an evil look. They were both laughing hysterically, balled up on the floor, tears falling from their eyes. That wasn't funny. Naruto said, dead cold, but his family didn't notice. Of course it was. Minato said between breaths. Yeah bro, that was hilarious. Naoko also tried to spit out. It's not an S-rank technique for nothing, Naruto. Mastering it to the point where you are pinpoint where you appear is a very difficult thing. It can be dangerous like you just experienced. But when you have it mastered, it can work miracles. But that's as far as I can teach you, Naruto. You will need to practice with it yourself to get any better. Take that kunai to work with the formula and the technique whenever you have free time. Minato encouraged. Yes father, and thank you for teaching me these techniques. Naruto bowed his head. Naoko, come here please. Minato called over his daughter who was still trying to pop a stiffer ball. Now the Chunin exams are tomorrow, and I want you guys to be careful out there, alright? You guys being my kids, and Sasuke being on your team, you guys have a big target on your back. Other villages may have orders to try and eliminate you or target you. Killing in the exams is not forbidden, but frowned upon, so there will be no penalties if you kill somebody. So listen, I want you guys to be more careful than ever before, okay? Minato now had his hands on the shoulders of his children. I know you guys are strong, but that doesn't mean you can ever be too careful, so watch each other's backs, okay? Yes, father. The children of the Hokage said simultaneously, knowing the seriousness in his voice. Good, now let's go home and get some rest. We trained as long as we could, and now it's time to show them all what the will of fire can do. Minato said with his glorious smile. Minato, Naoko, and Naruto began to walk to their house, awaiting what fate held for them tomorrow. Minato and Kushina and their kids were getting ready for the Chunin exams, which would begin in Konohagakure in a few hours, and this one would be very interesting. This year there would be a much larger quantity of genin from many other villages entering in the exam than ever before. From Konoha there were many notable potential shinobi, clan heirs and strong ninjas that would become the future protectors of their village, all powerful in their own right, and most had the drive to achieve greatness. But pitted against them were many other shinobi, fierce genin that were the pride of their villages, strongest of the batch that could be sent to participate in the exams, coming from villages like Kumagakure, Kurigakure, Sunagakure, Amegakure, Kusagakure, Atogakure. All were vying to show their superiority in this warlike simulation that worked as a substitution for the real thing. After all, shinobi were made to fight and protect. Iwagakure however would not be participating as Konoha, and they were sworn enemies since the Great War, where Minato had slaughtered half of their forces single-handedly. But the worst thing that came from this was the hassle of hosting. They needed to fortify security and keep their eyes vigilant, and what made it even better was that Konoha shinobi had targets on their backs. After all, being the strongest village militaristically and economically had downsides, like everybody trying to fight their way to take that top spot. Foreign shinobi would indeed be looking to cause some pain to the Konoha participants while they were there. The Hokage was explaining this to all the Konoha genin gathered before him that were taking part in the exams. He warned them to never drop their guard and wished them good luck to try their hardest. Once they had finished however, they would begin their journey to the academy where the first part of the exam would be explained to them. Naruto, Naoko, and Sasuke were walking along the road to get to the academy, where they were supposed to report to for the first part of the exams. They had wished their parents farewell and began to discuss what things would be like. They knew that these things would require individual work, but also teamwork. They would focus on what a mature and skilled chunin would need to know, helping teammates, thinking things out, and finding the hidden meanings within hidden meanings. Kakashi's team believed they were prepared for all aspects, and so they entered the academy and handed their consent forms to their lazy team leader who was standing next to the entrance. Good luck team, and even though we didn't train a lot as a unit, I believe that you are all prepared for what is ahead. Just remember the fundamentals and trust in your instincts. You are after all, legacies of great shinobi. Kakashi began to depart to the waiting lounge and ponder over what he would teach his students if they made it past the first and second parts of the examination. Naruto opened the double doors and began to walk down the hall, turning to get to the stairway that would take them to the room where they would get instructions on the first part of the exam. Naruto began to head down a hallway, but noticed that something was off. He saw a crowd ahead of him and a door that was covered in a jinjutsu being blocked by two shinobi. They looked like younger versions of two of his father's shinobi, Kotetsu and Izumo, and then he realized they were Kotetsu and Izumo. This was a test of theirs. If these genin couldn't see past a simple illusion, how would they fare against something that was life-threatening and couldn't even recognize when something in their surroundings was off? Sasuke began to walk towards it, but Naruto put a hand on his shoulder. Don't give the jinjutsu away, Sasuke. This will thin out the ranks. Besides, if they can't get to the test on time they won't get in, and if they can't see past this illusion they have no place being here. Naruto continued walking to where the actual exam was taking place with Sasuke and Naoko following behind him, both thinking how Naruto noticed that. They hadn't even caught it until Naruto pointed it out for them. Naruto reached the room and pushed the doors open, not expecting to see that many shinobi gathered in the area. He had hoped that most were distracted by the jinjutsu. However, not wanting to draw unwanted attention to himself and his team, he quickly moved on and walked to the sides, but a hand grabbed him and he turned to look towards who it belonged to. He came face to face with Temari and her siblings who were giving him death glares. Probably they thought that something happened between them when she didn't meet up with them after that night. Naruto knew what she wanted and pulled it off of his back, what he had been lugging around the entire morning, giving Temari the giant war fan back to her. They then looked at each other for a few seconds 3-on-3, Naruto to Temari, Naoko to Kankuro, and Sasuke to Gaara. The confrontation and assessments they were giving each other didn't go unnoticed to all the shinobi in the room. They were after all probably the most threatening people in the exams, being the children of the leaders of their village. They were sure to have a harder time than anybody else, with probably a lot of teams trying to harm them. The tension in the room could be cut with a knife. You know, you shouldn't draw so much attention to yourselves. Spoke a voice from the side of them, a silver-haired boy with glasses, his headband showing that he was a leaf ninja. You can attract a lot of unwanted attention being who you are, attention you do not want in this situation. And who might you be, getting into business of ours, friend, putting yourself in the same spotlight by talking to us?" Naruto said, not taking his eyes off of Temari. A fellow leaf ninja by the name of Kabuto, a shinobi who has taken these exams several times, somebody who has gathered all the information that can be gathered about this exam, increasing the odds of success. Kabuto retorted. "Well then I suppose you know what to expect, care to fill us in?" Sasuke was now interested in the boy. If he had any information that could help them, he would take any he could get. "Since you are fellow leaf shinobi and fresh out of the academy, what can I help you with?" Kabuto was suspiciously forthcoming with this information, even if they were from the same village, which did not go by unnoticed from both the Konoha and the Suna teams. "Do you have dossiers on individual participants in the exam?" Sasuke questioned, already knowing who he was going to look up. "Indeed I do," Kabuto confirmed. "Then you look up Suna participants, Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro, all with the title of no Sabaku." Sasuke let out, which caught two of the Suna shinobi off guard. The third kept a cold expression on his face. "Sure thing." Kabuto took out things that looked like flash cards from his pouch. He held out 3 with his fingers and pushed chakra through them, then he looked at them. Collectively they are known as the Sand Siblings. All 3 are children of the 4th Kazekage, and it seems they are all very skilled. As a team they have completed 8 C rank missions and 1 A rank. This information got an unimpressed look from Naruto and his team. The shinobi that surrounded them and were listening on the conversation, however, were shocked. On to their individual skills. What intelligence tells me is that they lack in Taijutsu and Jinjutsu, however they make up for it with their special skills. Gaara somehow has the ability to manipulate sand. Temari uses that fan of hers to deploy powerful wind-type jutsus, and Kankuro uses the art of puppetry that is a Suna unique skill type, but even only used by a few in their village. Kabuto was however unable to finish telling everything about the information when Kankuro went up to him looking extremely angry and lifted him up by the collar. "Where the hell did you get that information, punk?" Kankuro shouted right in his face. "Shut up now or be disqualified," came a voice from the head of the classroom, enveloped in a cloud of smoke. Everybody settle down now. When the smoke dissipated, what was revealed was a squad of Konoha shinobi with 1 man at the head. "I am Marino Ibiki, proctor of the first exam. Now each of you pass in the copies of your consent forms. In exchange for 1 form you will be given 1 number corresponding to a seat number in this room. You will go there and shut your mouths until told otherwise." Ibiki's final remark got everybody moving, going in to turn in their forms and get their number. After a couple of minutes everybody was situated in their seats. Naruto was sitting next to a random Kusa ninja around the middle of the classroom, Naoko all the way in the back, and Sasuke was closer to the front. It seemed most of the teams were separated from each other. "Alright, listen up because I won't repeat myself and I will not take any questions. The first part of the Chunin selection exams this year is a paper test. There are rules to this paper test." Ibiki began to write on the chalkboard at the front of the classroom. "Number 1, each one of you starts out with 10 points. The test has 10 questions. Each question you get wrong is -1 point. Do not forget, this exam is still a team event. Whether you pass or fail is determined by the sum of your team's points. Now, if you do anything out of the ordinary leading us to think you are cheating, we will subtract 2 points from everybody on the offender's team. Also, if anybody loses all of their points, that person will be disqualified, and since the exams are team-based, that team will fail. You have 1 hour to complete the test, now go." Ibiki finished, leaving the whole room clouded in a tense mood, his gaze seeming to fall on everybody in the class, the gaze of the proctors also falling upon the genin, like vultures circling weak prey. Naruto looked over the test and began to read some of the questions. However, everything he was looking at was probably beyond anything a normal genin could answer. However, he and his sister, with a mother like Kushina, got a heavy load of academics all their lives and could handle the problems. But that didn't mean everybody else could, which was the point of the test. You had to cheat to find answers and not get caught doing it. Ibiki was a great manipulator of the mind. He spoke so little, but in those words he instilled into the genin a seed of fear and doubt, uneasiness in doing something wrong and failing their team. Heck, they didn't even know how many points they would need to pass, or how many teams could pass. All adding up to a mystery that only mature shinobi could handle. Naruto looked around, already knowing how everything would play out. He didn't need to worry about the test and put his head down to rest for a little bit, maybe work on his relationship with the 3 tails. They hadn't been able to speak for long since he had acquired it. Naoko was in the back wondering what her brother was doing, going to sleep at this moment. What a douche, he need to help out their team, but she couldn't scold him at that moment. Instead she focused her attention on the questions at hand. Easy work for her indeed. It was a time like this that she knew would come, when her mother's numerous hours of studying things like math and chemistry and physiology and history would pay off. Sasuke close to the front was looking at the test over and over, his onyx black eyes panicking, now wishing that he hadn't rejected Kushina's offer to study with Naruto and Naoko on all that crap that he hated to look at, now looking at him on this test, the universe laughing at his lack of the knowledge of gifted scholars. The pink-haired girl was next to him, and all he knew about her was that she was also from Konoha, and that her name was Sakura from when she introduced herself to him when they were taking their seats. She seemed nice and normal other than her hair, he however was pulling at his own black hair, trying to pull the answers out of his brain, but nothing was coming out. Sakura, noticing his distress, felt sorry for him. She had a slight crush on him too, and for some reason felt like she should help him, so she took the leap. "Sasuke, do you need help?" She shifted over her paper slightly, showing him the 4 questions she had answered already. Sasuke, seeing this gesture, was surprised. They had barely met, but she was willing to help him. Even though he really wanted to do it, he couldn't. What if she failed because of him? What if he failed his team by doing this and getting caught? Instead, he activated his Sharingan, ready to copy the movements of the guy furiously riding in front of him. "I can't, I'm sorry, but thank you for the offer," Sasuke whispered sincerely. On the inside, Sakura was kind of relieved. Sai would totally have her head if they failed, because she was giving away answers. That emotionless genin gave her the shakes with his fake smile and unnatural demeanor. He was also quite skilled from what she had seen of him in combat. 20 minutes into the test, a kunai passed by Naruto's head, which would have struck him if he had his head up, but he hadn't. He was instead inside his mindscape, discussing what having the tailed beast in him would do. So far, he found out that his ability over water would increase dramatically, which was good for Naruto, because water was not something he liked to use often, nor earth. He was more of a wind, lightning, and fire type. However, having good ability with another element was a bonus. Naruto would now have access and manipulation over techniques he could not previously access. "Hey you asshole, what's the deal?" shouted an AIM ninja towards the proctor, who threw a kunai at his test. He was from AIM, and those guys had short tempers. "That's 4 strikes, get your team and get out," the proctor with bandages over his eyes said. "That's bullshit, you can't even see," retorted the AIM genin. He didn't get another comment out as the proctor threw a pen at him, hitting him in the head, making the genin caress where it hit. "Get your team and get out," repeated the proctor. But no sooner did other proctors start throwing kunes at the tests of other genin, those that were hoping the commotion of the AIM genin would distract the proctors so they could get some quick answers. Teams were getting caught quickly, all cursing their luck and the proctors. After a massive cluster of teams finished getting caught, things began to settle down, and soon they reached the 45-minute mark, signifying that the 10th question was about to be given. "Alright runts, that's 45 minutes, time for the 10th and final question." Ibiki looked around and found quite a lot more teams than he expected there to be. Still, this year had many participants, and it looked like he had only cut their numbers down by at least a half. "But before I give it to you, you need to choose whether you will accept or reject the question. Also, if you choose to reject it, you will lose all of your points, and your team will fail immediately. But if you do accept it and get it wrong, you will never be allowed to take the Chunin selection exams again." "What? We know there are people in here who have taken this exam more than once, that doesn't make any sense," Kiba shouted out to the man, bursting from his seat. "Yes, but unfortunately for you, I was not making the rules in the previous exams, tough luck runt." "So, anybody choose to reject the 10th question?" Ibiki looked over the group, hoping this would get them cut down even more, and it did. A wave of hands flew in the air, and all chose to reject the final question. They and their teams began leaving the area. "Anybody else?" Ibiki again looked around. They still had quite a lot of people, 78 in fact, and they all looked like they were in deep thought, except one with his head down, a lot of spiky blonde hair flowing down his back, his fingerless gloves visible along with his black long-sleeved shirt. Ibiki looked away from the boy to see a couple of people trying to find the gut to keep their hands down, their hearts in fear of being genin forever. "Wait mom, I'm sorry. Please don't chop off my nuts," Naruto shouted out into the room. He had jumped out of his chair, throwing it back and into the desk behind him. "Oh, I'm sorry, is the test already over?" Naruto said, rubbing the sleep from his eyes, looking at Ibiki, a mischievous smile on his face. The two had met before when his father needed to see an interrogation take place. They liked each other because they both knew how to manipulate the minds and the hearts of people, how to raise their spirits to make a person see you as their best friend or rip apart your soul until they think you are the Shinigami having fun. The genin in the room all had smiles on their faces from the blonde scene, thinking it funny that he had slept through the test and imagined his mom was going to neuter him. They now had the confidence that they needed to put their hands down and take the question. If he could sleep through this psychological nightmare and have this calm demeanor, they could tough out the final question. Ibiki looked at the boy who had now sat down and glared at him. Naruto still had his mischievous grin. Knowing what Ibiki was trying to do, Naruto had just countered it and instilled morale into the genin with a bit of humor at his expense. Ibiki looked away and saw the small smiles on the participants' faces, their hands down, then and there he knew it was over, his fellow proctors nodding their approval. Very well then, I am proud to say you have just passed the first part of the Chunin selection exams. Congratulations. Ibiki said, losing his calm and serious expression. What about the 10th question? Tamari stood up confused. The 10th question was whether you would accept or refuse. You needed to show courage in a situation that looked hopeless, Ibiki said with a smirk. Then what was the point of the other 9 questions? Just a huge waste of time, Tamari questioned, now angry. Those questions did have a purpose, as I am sure many of you realized. This exam was meant to test your intelligence gathering abilities, whether you could gather information without getting caught, a skill expected of any Chunin, and because in the real world getting caught can lead to fates worse than death. Ibiki finished and took off the bandana on his head, covering the numerous scars that he had received from torture at the hands of enemy shinobi. There will be times when much is required of you with a new rank, and any Chunin of their village will be a willing soldier, protecting the interests and the people of their village. You must do everything that is expected of you, you will have no choice, you will have orders, and you will have people depending on you. This was to test whether you would take those orders, even in a no-win situation, and if you would rise to the challenge before you and not fail those who depend on you, your teammates. All the genin in the room took that in, they let it seep into things that they would always remember on how to conduct themselves as ninja, a basic thing taught to them, just like how to handle a kunai. Now for the second, Ibiki was interrupted when an object broke through the window of the classroom and unwrapped itself to reveal a banner and a woman standing in front of it. Alright bitches. No time to celebrate, we need to get moving to the second part of the exams. What the fuck, Ibiki, there are 78 people here. You passed 26 teams. You're losing it, Grandpa. Soon I'm going to take your spot as the head of the torture and interrogation department. But do not fear, Ibiki, I will cut them down by 2/3, and the rest will be scarred for life when I'm done with them. Oh yeah, I am Mitarashi Anko, chief proctor for the second part of the exam, let's go. Everybody was looking at her bewildered. The man that just tested them was the head of the torture and interrogation unit of Konoha, the sadist who could break anybody. And the woman standing before them was confident she would take over that position because he was losing it. How bad would it have been if he went full force? How bad will it be with this Anko lady? Naruto, Naoko, and Sasuke were at the entrance to the Forest of Death. They had been hearing horrible things coming from in there for a while now. Don't worry guys, there are places far worse than in there. Naruto was trying to cheer his team up, they looked nervous, and he knew what being nervous could do to a person in situations like the one they were about to be placed in. Oh, really? Anko had overheard this and took out a kunai from her satchel, then at high speeds tossed it at Naruto, meaning to graze his cheek, but instead, Naruto caught it in his hand. I believe you dropped something, Proctor Anko. Naruto twirled the kunai in his hand, walking towards her he gave it back and whispered close to her ear, if you want my blood, just ask me next time, and you can drink straight from the source. He began to return to his team, leaving a blushing Anko just standing there. Well, now before we get started on the exam, I need you all to sign these consent forms so that I won't be held responsible if you die. When you and your team have filled them out, take them to the hut behind us. Moving on to the test itself, it is a no-holds-barred survival test. All teams will be given a scroll. There will be 2 types of scrolls. You need both types to pass. Once you have both scrolls, head towards the tower in the middle of the training ground, open them, and wait for further instruction. You may use any and every means to gain these scrolls. So a lot of you will probably die by not only enemy shinobi, but by the dangers that the forest holds. Let's just say there are many hungry things in there, things waiting to kill you, so good luck folks, you have 5 days. Anko waved to them and took off with a wink. Alright guys, here's what we need to do, get to the tower as fast as possible. Since everybody is headed that way, we can snag a team who will probably be weakened from fighting, and the chance will be higher that they have both scrolls so we can get the one we need with no struggle, understood? Naruto laid out the plan, hoping to evade the attack of Orochimaru by not sitting in the forest along, hoping that things wouldn't go down as bad as they did last time, but now he was stronger than he was when facing Orochimaru. He had already killed the man once, even though it was a slight struggle he knew he could do it again. Naruto and his teammates were running through the forest at high speeds, however Naruto was slowing down, his sister and friend were fast, but nowhere near as fast as him, and they were still not making the time that he wanted. Do you guys need a break? We've been on the move for at least an hour. Naruto saw how winded they looked and was wondering if sacrificing a little time was worth them catching their breaths. Yeah bro, I'm getting tired. Naoko said with her hands on her knees, leaning forward taking deep breaths. Sasuke was sitting on a log trying to catch his breath too. Alright then, we seem to be close to a lake, so I'll go get us some food. You guys begin setting up a camp. Sasuke set traps and establish a perimeter. Naoko start finding firewood so we can cook. Naruto began to walk to the river that bisected the training area and looked into the river, finding schools of fish to prey upon. With the appetite Naoko, Sasuke, and himself had, he would need about 18. Naruto put up his hand with a quick Bansho ten and pulled 20 fish out of the water. He then took out a senbon with a string attached to it and began to kill the fish and thread them together so he could carry them all at once. The young shinobi began to walk towards where they were supposed to set up camp and found it was coming along well. A fire was started and Sasuke was already back from setting up traps. "Hurry up bro, I'm hungry." Naoko's stomach growled in agreement. Naruto grabbed a few sticks that were on the floor and began to impale the dead fish on them so he could slowly roast them over the fire. He had his special spices in his pouch, along with the rest of his shinobi tools. He was ready to season the fish so they could enjoy a good meal in this dank and deathly place. Good food was always a morale booster for shinobi. An hour later that was proven as Naoko belched in her content state rubbing her belly. Naruto and Sasuke followed suit and they began to take down evidence of their encampment, taking out the fire and picking up their things, leaving the traps in hope that they would catch some unlucky team and take them out of commission. Time to move on. Naruto began to nibble at the last fish that he had and started walking in the direction of the tower. Sasuke and Naoko, checking their equipment, were walking behind him. "So what are we going to do if we encounter another team before we reach the tower?" Sasuke asked. He had confidence in his abilities and those of his teammates, but he was always one to be cautious, and for all they knew there could be somebody in these exams that could take them all on. "We create a strategy, implement it, and work as a team to overcome whoever gets in our way," Naoko said simply and cute-like. Team 7 was walking for quite a long time, paying close attention to their surroundings, and when they reached about the 3/4 point towards the tower they heard it. It sounded like a massive battle was taking place with explosions and large crashes. The earth was shaking and the wind was shifting directions. The air was saturated with chakra. "Should we go see what's happening? We could capitalize on whoever is fighting and finish them off and get some scrolls in the process." Naruto was curious to see what was going on maybe 200 feet from their location. "Yeah, let's go, these may be some easy pickings." Naoko was excited to get into combat and see how she fared against shinobi from other villages. She began running in that direction, and when they finally reached the area they saw the aftermath of a battle. There were craters on the floor, trees looked like they were sliced in half, and at the center of it all was a couple of shinobi teams. From their headbands they looked to be sound ninja, with one grass ninja at the head. Opposite them were a couple Konoha ninja, one with a bowl cut and what seemed to be a spandex-type jumpsuit. Another was a pink-haired girl, a boy with short black hair and a backpack holding a brush in his hand, a scroll in the other. To the side were the Sand siblings. Temari had her giant fan at the ready. Ara had his arms crossed. Kankuro was behind his puppet. On the side to all of them was an unconscious black-haired boy. "What should we do, big bro?" asked Naoko. Not liking the situation, she sensed that most of the players here were all powerful, especially the grass ninja whose chakra was off the charts, an amount that around a cage-level ninja would have. "We need to help the Konoha team, they look like they are the most vulnerable. I don't know why the Sand team is here, we'll just have to see what's what when we get down there. Be sure to watch out for the Sound and Grass ninja though, I have a feeling they are the most problematic in this situation. Be on alert for anything and everything." Naruto laid out what they were going to do and prepared himself. He was the only one here who could take on Orochimaru, but being careless was not something you did when the snake was around, no matter how strong you were. Naruto and his team jumped into action, landing in the middle of all the team's defensive positions in front of their Konoha comrades. This earned surprised looks from every shinobi in the battleground. "What's going on here, Sakura?" asked Sasuke, who was the only one who knew a member of the people that they were defending, but that didn't matter, they were from the same village, and for that reason they would defend each other. "The Sound shinobi and that grass shinobi began attacking us, saying they were looking for anybody who stood out, worthy to become his next vessel, whoever he is. Then Lee came to help us when he saw Sai and I were in trouble. Yuda, my other teammate, was knocked unconscious. These Sand shinobi got caught in the crossfire and started getting attacked by the Sound team. The Sound group is really strong, especially that grass guy. He's been toying with all of us the entire time, but I don't know why he is siding with them," Sakura explained, looking exhausted and injured. "So did the rest of them. So Temari, are you with us or against us?" Naruto shouted out towards the Suna team. "Neither, we are leaving, they seem to have a quarrel with your village shinobi. We just thought it prudent to assess the abilities of these candidates, but now that you're here we are leaving." Gaara finished up answering for Temari. They began to withdraw into the forest, leaving Sound facing Leaf Ninja. Not before disappearing, Temari looked back and gave an apologetic glance towards Naruto. If she disobeyed, Gaara would surely kill her after she was no longer needed. "So Orochimaru, have you branded anybody yet?" questioned Naruto, stepping forward a bit. This drew confused looks from everybody around him. "And who might you be? Knowing who I am and confronting me in such a way, and how do you know about the curse marks?" Orochimaru stepped forward, also making himself more prominent, ripping the skin off of his face to reveal his true form with the Atagakure symbol on his headband, a devilish smirk on his face. Wait 1 second, blonde hair that falls to his lower back, Konoha Genin, confident, on the team of the last loyal Uchiha of Konoha, you must be the son of the Yondaime. That bastard who took the title of Hokage from me, well I wonder how he will feel when I slaughter his children, and your loquacious mother, oh how the fury of that woman will rain down on those who slaughtered her babies. Let's not keep the action stalled, this will be the last fight of your lives, give it all you have, and maybe if you impress me, I will take one of you as my vessel. Oh what an honor it will be for you. Orochimaru pulled out a kunai and licked it with his extremely long tongue. We won't lose to trash like you, Orochimaru. Naruto began to walk forward, his sword unsealed now in his hand. Naruto stood in front of Orochimaru's sword drawn and at the ready, his face carried the look of determination, his hair partly covered his left eye, his right eye was clearly visible and displayed his Dojutsu, the Rinnegan and Sharingan combined, in front of him was the Sannin Orochimaru. Sweat was accumulating in his forehead beneath his headband, he felt hot on the inside and cold on the outside, behind him were his fellow Leaf Ninja looking nervous about what was going to transpire in a few moments. They were in the forest of death facing an unknown threat, it was a 5 against 4 fight in the Leaf Shinobi's favor, but what they were looking at didn't inspire confidence, a pale-faced man smirking at them as if they were prey, as if he was going to have the time of his life tearing them apart. Don't worry guys, I will handle the big one, you guys take the other 3, but be careful, don't get caught in their attacks, they use wind or sonic blasts from their arms and hands that are devastating. Watch each other's backs, okay, we can't afford any mistakes here, not against these people, they'll kill us all. Sasuke, use your Sharingan, Naoko bring out the fox's chakra, we need to finish this as fast as possible. Naruto ordered, Sasuke activated his Sharingan, and Naoko drew on the fox's chakra, a red cloak surrounding her. So you are the container of the fox, well it is going to be a pleasure toying with you. Girl Orochimaru was cut off when a blade of wind originating from Naruto's sword flew past his head, only missing him after ducking at the last second. You're not going to touch her, today you face me, and believe me today is the last day you live. Naruto dashed forward, hand outstretched. He blew a massive Shinra Tensei at Orochimaru and the Sound Ninja, blasting them backwards. Sasuke and Naoko rushed forward too, along with Lee, Sakura and Sai, each picked a target. Naoko and Sakura took the girl of the group, Sasuke took the one wrapped in bandages, while Lee and Sai took the last boy. Naruto began to bring his sword down when Orochimaru landed and tried to stab the snake, but Orochimaru brought his kunai up and deflected the attack, making the blade burrow itself into the ground above Orochimaru's head. Interesting power, brat, I can already tell that your body is strong, imagine the secrets that my experiments of you will reveal, you can say I collect special people, and you are just proving to me how much of a prized collection you will be. Orochimaru's neck extended, and he tried to bite Naruto in his neck, but Naruto jumped backwards leaving his sword, and retaliated by throwing a kunai at the head that was following him. Not want to give up what he wanted so easily, Orochimaru quickly followed and took out his own kunais, deflecting the one coming at him, then bringing them together, arsing them to try and cripple Naruto, but Naruto's legs caught them in their tracks. Orochimaru continued his assault by extending his snakes from his arms to wrap around Naruto's legs, giving him a good grip. He lifted Naruto up further into the air, and then smashed him on the forest floor, creating a cloud of dust. Jumping back to get some space between him and his prey, he lifted up his sleeve and bit into his thumb, swiping it across his arm. He slammed his hands on the floor. From below him erupted a giant snake. Orochimaru began to scan the floor ground below from above the snake's head, but saw nothing where Naruto should have been, instead what he was looking for was behind him. Naruto thrust his retrieved sword forward, piercing Orochimaru in the chest. Again Orochimaru tried to brand Naruto with a curse mark, grabbing the sword by the blade that was protruding from his body. He extended his neck again and turned it around to get Naruto. Naruto tried to pull out the sword but couldn't. Not wanting to let the disgusting snake sink his teeth into him, he let go of his sword and caught Orochimaru by the neck, gripping it hard to try and squeeze the life out of him. Orochimaru was impressed, very impressed. The boy was strong, he was fast, and he had a Dojutsu that he had never seen before. He could tell because it was looking at him right in the eye, not 2 feet from him. It looked like a Sharingan, but had another part surrounding it. Orochimaru opened his mouth, bringing forth his legendary blade, the Kusanagi. It began to erupt from his throat, pushing toward the boy in front of him. But Naruto ducked and brought another kunai to stab Orochimaru in the throat, which met its mark, giving a surprised expression to the snake Sannin's face. Gurgling on blood and choking on the kunai in his throat, Orochimaru's snake went into action, jerking its head up, suddenly sending both of them into the air. The giant snake turned to their still airborne bodies and lunged forward, mouth open. The next second they were both inside the snake's mouth, traveling down its gullet. Inside the snake, Naruto no longer felt the cold touch that came from his hand around the snake man. Instead he was enveloped in darkness, his surroundings pushing on him, as if they were trying to squeeze him to death. Naruto didn't want to have Sasuke or Naoko face Orochimaru, possibly be branded with a curse mark, so he performed one of his most used jutsus in the past. From the outside it looked as if the giant snake was a balloon, getting bigger as if air was being blown into it, but on the inside Naruto was multiplying himself 100 times over. And just like a balloon, when filled to the brim it explodes. Not one to fail that imitation, the snake burst in a rain of blood and guts, scattered itself across the forest, leaving a drenched Naruto standing in the epicenter of where the snake was. Naoko and Sakura were fighting the sound ninja who let her name slip during the battle. It was Kin, and she was very confident in her abilities, but in the state that Naoko was in, she was being pushed back and getting beaten roughly. Having access to the chakra of the strongest tailed beast and being able to stay in control of her body was a big benefit to Naoko, and she was showing that in the battle, pushing Kin back and protecting Sakura from Kin's constant attempt at the life of the weaker of the two. Naoko was slashing at Kin constantly, but Kin's speed kept her alive and in the fight. Naoko was trying to keep the space between her and Kin short, but Kin was skilled with Senbon, and barrage after barrage of those deadly needles was keeping her at bay. The anchor that Sakura was making was also not helping. "Sakura, you need to get back to the others, you're slowing me down, I need to finish her as quickly as possible and help big brother," Naoko said as she dodged another barrage of Senbons. Naoko looked behind her to see the downcast face of Sakura, and she immediately felt guilty about what she had said. By no means did Naoko think Sakura was weak, but she was just not as strong as her Kin. She after all had years of more advanced training, and Kin was probably also trained harder than normal people. "I don't think you're weak, Sakura, but I have the power of a Biju on my side, it's a completely different level, now go please," Naoko finished. Understanding the seriousness of the situation, Sakura began to retreat. "Good luck, Naoko, I'll meet you back with the others." Seconds later she was gone from the fight, and Naoko and Kin were left to continue to battle on their own. "It seems the pinky is gone, now shall we get serious?" Kin began to dash forward, her arms crossed in front of her. She then slashed down and released the Senbon that she was holding. Naoko dodged them and rushed forward, her fist aiming for the face of the girl trying to kill her, and it connected, sending Kin flying backwards into a tree. She rushed forward as Kin detached herself from the tree and like a mad animal began to punch Kin in the stomach. However, it wasn't ripping her guts out because Naoko had dropped the chakra cloak for the damage that keeping it up would cause. Feeling that she had enough, Naoko let go of Kin's hair, letting her fall to the ground unconscious. Sasuke was having a hard time. This guy was blasting him with sound waves by the amplifier on his arm. His ears were bleeding and he was feeling disoriented. This was the worst opponent he could face. His Sharingan couldn't see past what the sound ninja was doing because it was pure sound that was beating down on him. Sasuke needed to finish off this guy quickly. He couldn't fail his team against such a weak being. He was in Uchiha after all, an elite clan of Konoha, and he was the last of them. He would not fail here. "Do you know who I am? I am going to destroy you for making a mockery out of me." Sasuke rushed forward, his Sharingan blazing, and drew a shuriken. He jumped into the air and threw his shuriken at the sound ninja, but his opponent just blew them off of their course with the sound's vibrations. Sasuke substituted himself with a piece of wood in a nearby tree, dodging the sound wave headed for him, and let loose a kunai with an explosive tag attached to it. "Enough with the same tricks, boy, you are going to die here, you are all going to die here," the sound ninja shouted, not seeing the explosive tag attached to the kunai. Not moments later, the sizzling sound of the timer on the tag gave away the trick, and the sound ninja began to bound away. But that was not all the trick Sasuke had up his sleeves. The sound ninja was under the impression that it was a basic explosive tag, not one of Team 7's own custom explosive tags, a tag that was at least 10 times more powerful than basic ones. Sasuke bet on this and it panned out. The tag blew with a larger blast radius than he could have imagined. It was one of Naruto's own concoctions, and Sasuke had to admit, ever since Naruto took up sealing he was getting amazing. He would soon even be skilled enough to rival Minato. The blast from the explosive tag left a massive crater in the ground. The trees that were surrounding them were ablaze in a firestorm that was creating a suffocating temperature. Heat waves blasting against Sasuke's face, the oxygen being sucked from the area. The sound ninja was face down on the ground, his body smoking from exposure. "Damn Naruto, those tags are dangerous," Sasuke whispered out, looking at the aftermath of what the single tag just did. All of a sudden he was a bit nervous about carrying 4 more in his back pouch. Self-detonations were rare, but not unheard of, and he had enough faith in the sealing abilities of Naruto not to take the kunais out of his pouch immediately. Lee and Sai were fighting the boy named Zaku. They were giving him a beating. Lee's speed and strength was easily overwhelming the sound shinobi, but Lee was not one to toy with his enemies. He was already finishing up with a couple of punches and kicks to the boy's face, head, abdomen, chest and back. He was sure that he dealing broken bones and internal bleeding to Zaku. "This need not drag on, we are both honorable shinobi in the pinnacle of the flames of our youth. Yield and we can stop this, we still have most of the exams ahead of us." Yosh, on the side of Lee was Sai, who was providing support to the green genin, trying not to stab the boy for being so awkward to be around. I won't give up. I won't lose to creepy trash like you, with your creepy jumpsuit and that creepy worm on your face you call eyebrows, and I won't fail him. Zaku put up his arms, extreme decapitating airwaves. Then out of his palms a massive gust of cutting wind erupted, leveling the surrounding area, wiping out everything in its path. Luckily Lee nor Sai were in the path of the attack. Lee's speed allowed him to get behind Zaku and give a quick and hard chop to the base of his neck, knocking him out. I am Konoha's beautiful green beast, not some creepy stooge. Yosh. Lee spoke looking down on the unconscious body of Zaku. Naruto, Naoko, Sasuke, Sakura, Sai, and Lee came back to where the fight originated. They all looked tired and beaten. Well, there is an upside to this fight. I got us the scroll that we needed, and an extra from the guy I beat. Do you guys have the Earth Scroll? Sasuke asked to Sakura. We have an extra Heaven Scroll, since we already got one at the beginning of the exam. No, we need the Heaven Scroll as well, Sakura said as she was looking over the unconscious body of her teammate Yudao, who was knocked out the entire fight. Sasuke handed her the scroll that her team needed. Well, I should be going. I think my team is worrying about me, maybe not Niji but Tenten for sure. Goodbye Sakura, Lee said to the pink-haired girl kissing her hand on his way to exit. Goodbye Lee and thank you for helping us, Sakura looked on as he began to leave. Is it just me or do his eyebrows look like they're constantly moving, said Naoko with thoughtful look on her face. It's almost as if she didn't get a chance to finish as Naruto interrupted her train of thought. I didn't finish off Orochimaru, we need to still be on alert, he finds us interesting, and don't forget what he said about killing us, he wants to make father suffer, and we're still alive so his job's not over. Naruto stood up from his kneeling position and took a deep breath. He looked at his team and couldn't help but feel like he had let them down. He was the only one who didn't take out his man, and he should have. They would have been able to keep the smiles they had on their faces when Sasuke announced that he had found the scrolls that they needed. We need to move out as quickly as possible, wake that guy up. Naoko said to Sakura indicating to Yudao. They all began to pick up their things, and Naruto inspected everybody healing their wounds or drinking some water. I can't, that guy bit him, he said that he was interesting. He has this mark on his neck, Sakura explained, and Naruto turned back, wondering what the kid had that Orochimaru wanted. He let it go noting it for later, making sure he would investigate what the boy's gift was. Naruto, I must say you went a little overboard with those explosive tags, I almost blew myself up. Not to mention the guy I threw it at. Sasuke said as he took a swig of water from his bottle. Oh, that was what made all the noise. I told you that they pack a bigger bang, Naruto said with a sheepish smile. He began to walk away, but a sadistic voice stopped him in his tracks, sending chills down his spine, as well as the spines of all the other Konoha genin. Very interesting, you are all quite talented to be able to defeat my subordinates. It will be a pleasure in taking you three, imagine, the children of the Yondaime Hokage, and the last Uchiha doing my bidding. Orochimaru looked at them thoughtfully. He then regurgitated his sword and grabbed it, bringing it to his side. We both know that will never happen, Naruto gave him a sadistic smirk. And why is that, Naruto? I'm going to destroy your spirit and your sisters. I will give Sasuke the power that he needs to avenge his clan. In the end you will all kneel before me. Orochimaru said, beginning to walk forward. That's not what I meant. What I meant is that we are going to kill you, because you cannot defeat the eyes that we hold. Naruto pointed to himself and Sasuke is above taking help from the likes of you. Don't pretend that you care what happens to him. The business of his family is his to handle as he pleases. Besides, the irony behind what you just offered him does not escape me. You could not defeat Itachi yourself. What makes you think you can help Sasuke do it? Leeches like you just want the power we hold. You seem pedophile as well, wanting us for our bodies, you sick snake. Naruto jumped forward with a battle roar and unsealed his gun by getting ready to bring it down on the snake and release the wind chakra he was focusing into it. He brought it down and let loose the attack he was preparing, shredding Orochimaru on its way. Not want to go down so easily, Orochimaru had let his earth clone take the attack, allowing the real him to appear behind the Konoha genin. The day is not your day, is it? Orochimaru brought up his sword ready to behead Sakura, who was frozen in shock. Naruto wouldn't let his comrades die. He intervened in the attack by catching it with his own sword that he had switched out for his gun by, but he should have known better. The Kusanagi could scratch diamond, the most sturdy mineral that there ever was. That was the main reason that he took the sword when he had killed Orochimaru the first time, its deadly sharpness and the power that the weapon alone held. It cut through his sword like a knife through butter. After it passed through his sword it was headed for his body, threatening to cut him in half. Quickly getting over his surprise, not less than a millionth of a second later, he used a Shinra Tensei to blast Orochimaru away. That's it, Orochimaru, the kid gloves are coming off. Naruto charged again, flaring his chakra so that he moved faster and hit stronger than he did normally, and just the fact that he could actually be faster and get stronger was a testament. He already had the strength of Tsunade naturally. He reached the flung back Orochimaru and grabbed him by the neck, smashing him into the ground and kneeing his sternum, breaking bones. Naruto lifted his other arm, fist balled up and punched downwards, over and over and over, literally breaking in the snake monster's face. The crunch of facial bones below him was sickening, blood was splattering all over Naruto's face. In tandem, Naruto was smashing Orochimaru with his knee continuously. Orochimaru had had enough. He was gauging the boy's power and was surprised he was that strong. He wondered what his secret was. Orochimaru then flared his own chakra, causing the pit that they had created from intensity of their chakra and the beating that Naruto was giving to widen further and push Naruto off. The battered and beaten Orochimaru burrowed into the ground. "Damn it, you slippery bastard, show your fucking face." Naruto shouted out, frustrated. He remembered killing Orochimaru the first time and remembered that it took a lot less to kill that asshole. Maybe it was because he had Itachi by his side last time. Naruto began to jump back to the group that was looking on, but Orochimaru began talking from a branch in a tree. "However you got your power, boy, I am very intrigued. Do not do anything to dilute that strength, for when the time comes, perhaps you will be the one that can truly contain my soul, and riding your meat suit is going to be the time of my immortal life. Imagine the jutsus I can develop with a body like yours to add to my infinite library of jutsu and knowledge. But in the meantime we need to get you stronger, much stronger, and like Sasuke I'm going to fuel you with hatred. Watch as I tear your world apart, brat." Orochimaru's body turned into a plethora of snakes and began to fall. "Ninjutsu won't work on me, you piece of shit." Naruto looked on as the snakes continued to fall to the ground below. "It's not ninjutsu, boy," Orochimaru said from behind Naoko, and he thrust his kusangi into her, right where her heart would be. The world stopped in that moment. Everybody's mouths were agape. They heard nothing but the wind rustling the leaves in the trees, saw Naoko gasping for breath, unmoving and unbelieving. Naoko looked down to see what was a sword through her heart. She kept staring at it and then looked up to see her friends, her brother, and then it went black for her. She fell to her knees, making Orochimaru turn his wrist downward to allow the sword to follow. The thud when her knees hit the ground created a small dust cloud, making the Konoha Genin come back to reality. Then when her body fell to the side, Orochimaru had pulled out his sword. They realized what had just happened. Orochimaru had just killed Naoko. Sasuke was the first to react. His eyes began to burn. He noticed. He began to be able to see more clearly, see more. His Sharingan was active. He tried to pierce the so realistic Jinjutsu, but his eyes saw nothing, just that Naoko's chakra was fading fast. To the outside world it was surprising to see that Sasuke had fully matured his Sharingan. 3 tomos were floating around one central point. His face had a furious expression on it. He jumped forward, eyes blazing red, his hands gripping 2 kunai so hard that his knuckles were white. "I'm going to kill you." Sasuke was on him in less than a second, swatting the kusangi away with his kunai and thrusting the other forward to embed itself in the heart of Orochimaru. Not a moment later he dropped 1 kunai and put his hand up to his mouth. With one-handed signs he blew a storm of fire on the body of Orochimaru until a blazing hand erupted from behind that wall of fire, grabbing onto Sasuke's neck, stopping the attack. Orochimaru brought Sasuke to stare straight at his face. My, you have no idea how many times I have looked upon those eyes and wondered, what does it take to unlock the secrets behind them? What secrets can those eyes and those eyes alone uncloak? Soon I will see what they can do, myself, little one." Orochimaru then punched him in the stomach, dropping Sasuke to the floor. Naruto was behind them, trying desperately to heal his sister, pushing as much chakra as he could into her body, trying to heal and restart her heart. His hands were caked in blood, and his eyes were red from the tears falling onto his sister below. He was hoping for the sake of hope that his healing abilities and the fox within her would get the job done. If not, then he would summon the King of Hell himself to get her back, the Shinigami if need be. She wasn't supposed to die here. She wasn't supposed to die to filth like Orochimaru. He wouldn't let it happen. "Come on, sisses, you can't die here. You can't give up here. Come on, fox, you can't let her die here." Naruto was now screaming in her face. Naruto looked up when he heard footsteps coming toward him. He looked up to see the face of a smirking Orochimaru. "Let that anger drive you, let it become you, and soon you will have the power that I need." Orochimaru began to pat Naruto on the head and then walked away, disappearing in a wave of wind and leaves a few steps later. Naruto looked up to see his friend clutching his stomach on the floor, looked behind himself to see Sai shifting, and Sakura looking on with a blank face holding Yudao's head in her lap. He looked around again and realized where they were, in the Chunin selection exams. For all they knew, enemies could be sneaking up on them at any moment. "We need to move, we're too exposed out here, let's go." "Sasuke, get up, I'm trying to heal her, and I think the fox is too, so she should be okay. Come on." Naruto picked up Naoko gently and began to walk in the direction of the tower, scrolls in his back pouch. Sasuke soon got up and began to follow, along with the other Konoha Genin. The Genin were walking along still, and Naruto was still trying